Then I went to Douluo. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 176 Retreat. A very faint black shadow seemed to flash across everyone's sight. Then the next moment, Tang San felt someone grabbing his throat, and then he was quickly taken out of the area where Shrek Academy was located. Finally, his back was pressed heavily against the mountain wall beside him. The force was so great that he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. It was at this time that he saw clearly the person in front of him who attacked him, and the 9 spirit rings surrounding him. Tang San's pupils contracted violently. Ghost Douluo smiled sinisterly and said, "You are Tang San, right?" Then he looked at Tang San's face again. "Sure enough, you look a bit like Tang Hao." Although Tang San was captured by the title Douluo, he still behaved very calmly. His right hand touched the 24 Bridges Moonlight Knight on his waist without leaving a trace, and said at the same time, "Who are you, and why are you arresting me?" Ghost Douluo tilted his head slightly, as if thinking. Because he was wearing a mask, no one could see his expression. "Why did I capture you?" There is actually no reason, it's just that the mission I received just happened to include this," Tang San said calmly. "You still want to kill me, right?" Ghost Douluo smiled and said, "You guess right, kid, but there is no reward." As soon as the voice fell, he raised his other hand, used his palm as a knife, and chopped directly at Tang San's neck. Tang San's expression was condensed, and the purple extreme demon eye was activated. The first, second and fourth soul skills of the blue silver grass were also activated at the same time, intending to delay the time for the palm to chop. While these soul skills were activated, Tang San also quickly took out the jade box containing the King of Hell sticker on the 24 Bridges Moonlit Knight. And this is also the only trump card that he may survive in the hands of the title Douluo. However, the speed of the title Douluo in front of him was too fast. The blue-silver grass just wrapped around his arm, and then it turned into powder and dissipated, and it was unable to stop the palm that was constantly approaching. At this moment, Tang San just took out the Yama sticker. But Ghost Douluo's palm was about to touch him. Once it was completely in contact, it would be the time for him to die. However, at this critical moment, in front of Tang San, that is, between him and Ghost Douluo, a pink figure suddenly appeared. When that figure appeared, it was covered with a strong golden light. Then Ghost Douluo's palm fell on the arm of the figure with a golden light all over. As strong as the title Douluo, he could not stir up even a ripple in that golden light. The fourth soul skill of the soft bone charm rabbit, the invincible golden body. It was Xiao Wu who used the instant transfer in time to resist this attack for Tang San. Tang San also quickly seized the opportunity at this time, raised his hand and stabbed the Yama sticker in his hand into the body of Ghost Douluo in front of him. As long as he could pierce his skin, then they would be the winners of this battle. Good idea, but unfortunately, the speed is too slow. Ghost Douluo's hand that was originally pinching Tang San's throat now grabbed his wrist that was pinching the Yama sticker. He looked at Tang San's pupils that shrank sharply and laughed. Tang San had time to say, "Xiao Wu, go," then Ghost Douluo's palm chopped over again. Unfortunately, Xiao Wu's invincible golden body also ended at this time. And the purpose of Ghost Douluo's attack now was also very clear. That was to kill both of them at the same time. In this very short time, Xiao Wu had been trying to activate her fourth soul skill again, but all ended in failure. Tang San also thought a lot in this very short time. But after all, he didn't look through all his memories like a revolving lantern. It means that today is not the time yet. So another palm appeared on the path that Ghost Douluo's palm must pass. Compared with the Ghost Douluo's palm, that palm was much smaller and more beautiful, and it was also emitting a rich blue-black light. But it was this palm that firmly grasped Ghost Douluo's wrist and stopped his wrist from getting closer to Tang San and Xiao Wu. The three of them looked over at the same time and saw the extremely handsome boy. Ghost Douluo's voice was gloomy, and he laughed hoarsely. "You are Tang Liu." Before he finished speaking, Tang Liu gave his own response. His other hand was carrying the same rich blue-black light, and then he slapped Ghost Douluo's chest. In a very short time, Ghost Douluo did not fly out directly. But he was in a moment of unconsciousness. Then a circle of blue-black light pattern spread outward from the center of his chest, where Tang Liu slapped him. After that, He was slapped away by that palm. After retreating more than 10 meters, he stabilized his body, feeling the soul power and blood surging in his body, and it was difficult to hide the shock in his heart. Then he saw the 6 circles of blue-black, extraordinary soul rings surrounding the boy who hid him, and his pupils trembled involuntarily. How is it possible? The blue-black light on Tang Liu's hands dissipated at this time, and then his expression quickly turned pale. But his eyes were still indifferent, and his expression was also indifferent, just looking at Ghost Douluo, as if everything he had just done was insignificant. Ghost Douluo screamed, "How is this possible? How old are you? How can you cultivate to the level of Soul Emperor? Also, why is your soul ring this color? Fake. This is all fake." Tang Liu ignored him, just slowly raised his right hand, concentrating on controlling the Hyaolin mark in Ghost Douluo's body. A great sense of crisis suddenly appeared in Ghost Douluo's heart. He immediately wanted to rush over and quickly deal with Tang Liu. But his body was out of control and stiff and unable to move. His body trembled slightly, and his eyes under the mask looked at Tang Liu opposite in horror. Even though the other party's face was becoming paler and paler, it still couldn't erase the crisis of death that enveloped him. He wanted to scream, but he couldn't breathe. At this time, he also realized that his breathing had stopped at some point. Only the beating heart proved that he was still alive. But death was not far away. He could clearly feel that the soul power in his body was restless and rushing through every meridian in his body. This kind of soul power riot should have made him vomit blood, but he just stood there stiffly without any movement. Then, the soul power in his body began to boil, and the speed of running through the meridians became faster and faster, and even his body's surface began to emit a faint light. Finally, it returned to calm. Chapter 177 Competition System Changes. He watched the boy opposite him quickly retract the 6 blue-black spirit rings around him, then closed his eyes, and fell down, being caught by Tang San behind him. At this time, he also regained his ability to move, and then he couldn't help but spit out a large mouthful of blood. But he also breathed a sigh of relief, because the palpitation of death had left him far away. Then, followed by panic and anger. That Tang Liu, at such a young age, had the cultivation of a soul emperor, and those strange spirit rings, and the strength to kill a title Douluo. How could such a person stay in the world? Now is a good time. With his speed, he can quickly kill Tang Liu and Tang San. He did so. But he just took a step forward. A long sword fell in front of him. The tip of the sword pierced the ground. The smooth sword body reflected his figure. He didn't dare to move again. Because he couldn't be faster than this person's sword. 7 Killing Sword. Sword Douluo, Chen Xin. When Tang Liu woke up from his training, it was already the 3rd day since the attack from the Spirit Hall, and the 14th day of their trip to the Spirit City. In fact, that day, when he was just a little short of detonating the spirit power in Ghost Douluo's body and causing him to explode on the spot, he had already sensed the approach of Sword Douluo. Since he was still using a Hyaolin spell at the time, Tang Liu, who did not want Sword Douluo and Ningfengzi to know about his 3rd spirit, took back his spirit and cancelled the control over Ghost Douluo, and then immediately pretended to be unconscious. In this way, his 3rd spirit could at least delay the public for a while. Then Ghost Douluo also saved his life. Finally, Ghost Douluo, knowing that he could not defeat Sword Douluo, retreated, and the other people from the Spirit Hall also retreated and left. Although letting Ghost Douluo go meant that his 3rd spirit would be known by the Spirit Hall, it didn't matter. Anyway, he had to show it off in the finals, so Tang Liu didn't care. Anyway, after the Spirit Hall retreated, Tang Liu, who pretended to be unconscious, was sent back to the carriage of Shrek Academy by Tang San. Then, when everyone left, he immediately got up to practice. The result is now like this. He practiced for 3 days before waking up. As they got closer and closer to the Spirit City, the spirit power of Shrek's students was getting higher and higher, and they were almost about to break through again. Then, the day of arrival finally arrived. The Spirit City is a hexagon as a whole, which means that it has a total of 6 walls. Moreover, the people living in the Spirit City are all Spirit Masters. It can be said that this is the holy land of Spirit Masters on the entire Douluo continent, because non-Spirit Masters are not allowed to enter. However, compared to the Spirit City, some people's eyes are attracted by a white palace in the distance. Including but not limited to Tang San, Tang Liu, and Zhu King, who is protected by Ningfengzi and Jian Douluo. And that palace is the Elder Hall of the Spirit Hall, also called the Douluo Hall. The first thing Tang Liu did when he arrived at Wuhan City was to look for the White Palace. After finding it, he immediately activated the Purple Demon Eye and watched from afar. However, compared to the Purple Demon Eye, the Haolan spell is undoubtedly more useful at this time, so under the cover of the purple light of the Purple Demon Eye, no one can find the blue light hidden deep inside. Through this layer of blue light, Tang Liu also roughly saw what he wanted to see. For example, the person in the palace. The old man seemed to have a feeling and looked around in the palace. But he didn't find anything. So he lowered his head again and continued to clean the palace. Tang Liu also retracted his gaze from afar at this time. It can be seen that he still can't beat it for the time being. There are a total of 33 teams participating in the finals this time, with a total of 15 teams from the Xiandao Empire and 17 teams from the Xingluo Empire. The finals will officially start in 3 days, which means that all participating colleges will only have the last 3 days of rest time. After following the large team to their rest area, the people of Shrek College also met the master. The master first briefly asked about the previous attack on the Spirit Hall, and then began to introduce the rules of the competition to everyone. The master looked a little strange, and he said, "The competition system of this finals is very different from the past. The biggest change is that each participating team must send out 8 people instead of 7. Tang Liu's eyes lit up. "Does that mean I can always play?" The master looked at him with a complicated look. "That's right, but this new competition system was just changed by the Spirit Hall not long ago. And judging from the time, it should be shortly after you were attacked." "Xiao Liu, did they see your third spirit?" Tang Liu nodded. Tang San answered for him. "Xiao Liu used his third spirit to save Xiao Wu and me from Ghost Douluo." The master nodded. At present, the only one who can force Xiao Liu to release his third spirit to fight with all his strength is the level of title Douluo. However, what do you think of the sudden change of the competition system by the Spirit Hall this time? Tang Liu said. "Nothing, just targeting me." The master, "Yes, the Spirit Hall changed this competition system to target you. Since you have already shown your true strength in front of Ghost Douluo, in order to prevent their Spirit Hall seed team from losing, they must have someone who can defeat you steadily. Although they have 3 Soul Kings, it is obviously not enough, so they finally decided to add one more person and have an 8-person team battle. At the same time, the age limit of this 8th person is not like you, who can only be under 25 years old, but under 30 years old. Moreover, if this 8th person is not on the previous registration list, each college can re-register before the competition begins, and the students who are already on the list can also re-register. Do you know what this means?" Tang San replied, "It means that the teams of each academy can replace their own players, and it is not impossible to put together a team of a soul sex like us in the end." The master nodded. "Yes, that's it. Based on this, each academy can also redetermine the registration list, so I signed up Mu Jing with you." "Mu Jing, do you have any questions?" Mu Jing shook her head. "No." The master said and then continued, "Then let me briefly talk about the elimination mechanism of the finals. There are a total of 33 teams participating this time, and after the first round of eliminations, only 16 teams are qualified to continue participating. It's cruel." Quotation mark. Chapter 178. The game begins. In the knockout rounds, each college's team will compete on alternate days, which means that after each knockout round, you will have 1 day to rest. However, this day is not too long, but not too short either. If you are seriously injured in a match, you will most likely not be able to participate in the next match. Therefore, in every match, you must prioritize your own safety. After getting responses from the students, the master continued, after the knockout rounds, the remaining 16 teams will begin the quarterfinals to select the 8 teams that can continue to compete. After that, it will be the semifinals. The final 3 teams will be selected to participate in the finals, and a one-on-one elimination system will be used to decide the byes. The team with a bye will directly enter the finals, and the remaining 2 teams will have to have a team battle, and then the winning team will compete with a team with a bye in the finals. But it is obvious that the team with a bye undoubtedly has a huge advantage. In addition to being able to consume your energy, it can also find out your strengths and weaknesses. Although the finals do not allow non-participants to watch the game, this is the Spirit Hall. Although no one from their team can come to watch the game, the Pope and the elders of the Spirit Hall can watch the game. So, once they know, it is equivalent to the team of the Spirit Hall knowing it. Do you understand? Everyone nodded. Then the master looked at Tang Liu. So, Xiao Liu, if we don't have a bye in the end, then the game with the other team will mainly depend on you. Try not to let others reveal too much strength. Tang Liu nodded. Yes. The master then looked at the Shrek 7 devils. And the 7 of you have been practicing with me recently. The 7 monsters answered in unison. Yes. The master nodded slightly and said, that's all for today. Now everyone can go back and rest. Starting tomorrow, the 7 monsters will practice with me. The finals went on as scheduled. But maybe it was destined that the opponent Shrek Academy drew in the first round was another old acquaintance. Blazing Academy. Although Blazing Academy and Shenfeng Academy did not join forces this time, Blazing Academy still chose to abstain. However, Shrek's students were still happy to do so. After all, according to the competition system, as the first place in the promotion competition, they could have a bye in the second round of eliminations, which meant that they could have more energy and be more fully prepared to face the third round. Later, the master told them that the reason Blazing Academy abstained was because they could not put the entire team together to form a soul sect. Although their 8th person found a soul king, they still knew that they were not Shrek's opponent, especially when they knew that Tang Liu would definitely play. So in order to save their strength to deal with the subsequent games, Blazing Academy chose to abstain. Before the finals began, all colleges were able to watch the game, so the people of Shrek did not immediately return to their resting place, but chose to stay and watch the game. Except Tang Liu. After hearing that Blazing Academy abstained, he immediately teleported away and chose to go back to practice. The finals are coming, and the 2-year agreement is about to come. Therefore, even Tang Liu, who is carefree, began to panic. This feeling is just like the time before each mock exam in his previous life. He always felt that he was still lacking something, so he was uneasy and could only keep flipping through books, cramming for comfort. The first game today was between the Divine Wind Academy and the Lonqi Academy of the Xingluo Empire. In comparison, the Divine Wind Academy was stronger, so the Divine Wind Academy won the game steadily. After watching all the games today, they went back, and then the 7 monsters immediately started the master's special training for them today. And the master's special training for them was naturally to teach the 7 monsters how to use the 7-in-1 martial soul combination skills. After all, even Xinian can figure out a 7-in-1 martial soul combination skill. Would the master who has been studying martial souls for so many years not be involved in this? On the contrary, the master not only involved it, but also involved it to a much deeper degree than Xinian. The 7-in-1 martial arts combination skills developed by Xinian also require the 7 soul masters to have the same martial arts and attributes. But the master had already developed a method for 7 soul masters with different martial arts to perform martial arts combination skills. In short, Tang Liu's training and the special training of the martial arts combination skills of the 7 monsters were all proceeding in an orderly manner. At this time, the 4 people in the reserve team and the newly joined Mu Jing were idle. However, they were only idle for a short while, and then they looked at the others who were working hard and began to learn from each other. Naturally, it was the 4 people in the reserve team and Mu Jing alone. Even so, Mu Jing still won more times. After all, her elemental control ability of the 7-star clumb was really unreasonable, and her control of her own abilities was also superb, which was even more unreasonable. Although Mu Jing was not taught by Shrek's teachers before, it can be seen that her combat awareness and combat skills are not worse than those of the Shrek 7 monsters. Flanders was also very curious about this, so he asked Mu Jing who taught her when she was in the Botanical Academy before. Then Mu Jing answered him, in fact, there was no teacher teaching me in the Botanical College. It was just that the person who sent me to the Botanical College taught me how to fight for a period of time. Then Flanders understood. Someone from the Spirit Hall? That's really possible. After all, didn't the Spirit Hall train 3 Spirit Kings under the age of 25 this time? However, he was still very curious about the identity of the person Mu Jing mentioned, because according to Mu Jing, although that person was from the Spirit Hall, he didn't seem to be that close to the Spirit Hall. And in his memory, he couldn't find anyone who looked like the person Mu Jing mentioned. So he asked again, what does the person you mentioned look like? Mu Jing shook her head. I don't know, is he wearing a mask? After seeing Mu Jing nod, he continued to ask, then how old is he exactly? Can you tell? Anyway, he's not old. He doesn't look like he's 30. Flanders caught a key word and asked subconsciously, how strong is he? Stronger than Tang Liu. Mu Jing answered very straightforwardly. Flanders suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. Time passed quickly, and 3 days passed in a blink of an eye. On the 5th day of the finals, Shrek Academy ushered in their 3rd round of eliminations. Chapter 179, 8-Man Team Battle. After arriving at the competition venue, Flanders, the dean, immediately went to the draw site to draw lots. Soon, he came back and brought good news to everyone. Shrek Academy's opponent in the 3rd round of eliminations was not strong, and was also their old opponent in the promotion match. Botanical Academy. A master did not expect the draw to be this result, and subconsciously looked at Mu Jing. After all, they had just poached someone's talent, and now they were about to face the opponent. It felt a bit unfair, but Mu Jing didn't care at all, and said, "It doesn't matter, I don't care. Or, do you want me to play? Okay, I'll play this game." The master who didn't speak, so in this game, Tang Liu was replaced by Mu Jing. The 8th contestant of the enemy's Botanical Academy was indeed at the Soul King level. However, the 8 people on Shrek's side were all Soul Masters, while Botanical Academy had only 2 Soul Masters. So the strength of the 2 sides is basically equal, not to mention that Shrek also has Ning Rong Rong, the auxiliary artifact. Shrek Academy felt a little embarrassed, let alone Botanical Academy. Especially their team leader, after seeing Mu Jing among the players on the field, also had a look of not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Originally it belonged to their own students, but now it became someone else's, and it turned against their own family. But all this was voluntary, so the team leader didn't know whether to be angry or cry for a while. The game started soon. Under Tang San's rhythm control, and Mu Jing and Ma Hongjin's flames restrained all the students of Botanical Academy, even though they had a Soul King. They soon fell behind. Then, after everyone worked together to deal with the Soul King, the victory of this game was firmly grasped by Shrek Academy. After they knocked the last student of Botanical Academy off the stage, the referee announced their victory. Because Mu Jing was from Botanical Academy before, when the 7 devils attacked, they only used a relatively gentle way to send the students of Botanical Academy off the stage, never letting them get hurt, which was also considered to save face for Botanical Academy. However, compared to the embarrassment of other Shrek members, Tang Liu, who did not play and stayed to watch the game, was more solemn. Because, if he remembered correctly, in the original novel, the 3rd round of Shrek Academy, under the covert manipulation of the Spirit Hall, was a match with the Xingluo Royal High-Level Spirit Master Academy. Then, the Xiandao Royal Academy team, which was also a seed team, played against the Spirit Hall High-Level Spirit Master Academy. But now, neither of these 2 games happened. Does it mean that something has quietly changed? But Tang Liu inexplicably had a hunch that this change seemed to be aimed at him. After all, in this way, he would no longer have the so-called plot advantage. If the change is more severe, it will be completely different from the original novel in his memory. Then, he will be like every native resident of Douluo continent, knowing nothing about the future. Even if he can speculate what will happen in the future based on the plots he knows and the various news on the continent, it will not be necessarily accurate after all. It is completely opposite to his previous situation. Because everything before was inevitable, what he knew was bound to happen. So what about now? Tang Liu thought about it carefully. It didn't seem to be that important. Because no matter what, they would meet the team from the Spirit Hall, and then Xingluo and Xiandao would definitely meet one. Of course, it is not ruled out that they would face 2 seeded teams one after another. It is not the idea of fighting with the enemy and covering the water with earth. It's just that it really doesn't matter to him whether it follows the original book or not. His only goal now is to get the final championship. In this case, it doesn't matter who the opponent is. Anyway, you have to win. Tang Liu suddenly reacted. So he is a Buddha, right? Tang Liu, yeah. After thinking it through, Shrek's game was over, so Tang Liu immediately teleported back and started practicing, seizing every minute and every second left. After the 3rd round of competition, there were only 24 colleges left. After 2 more rounds, the top 16 of the finals can be selected. In the last 2 games, Shrek still did not encounter a strong opponent, and even Tang Liu, who was replaced by Mu Jing, played. Even so, Shrek easily won the last 2 elimination games and successfully entered the top 16. As for Tang Liu, he spent all his time on improving his soul power. The 16 teams continue the game after a day of rest. However, The game mechanism of the 16-to-8 has become a round-robin system, and then the top 8 teams are selected according to the points obtained by each team after the end. In other words, each of the 16 teams will play 4 games, and each win will get a certain number of points. In the end, the top 8 teams will enter the top 8. Similarly, this also means that from now on, Shrek may encounter 3 seeded teams in a row in the 4 round-robin matches. This is undoubtedly the worst situation. After the game started, the opponent of Shrek Academy in the first round-robin match was not strong, and Tang Liu still did not play, and was replaced by Mu Jing. However, in the second round, they encountered a seeded team, the Shyandao Royal Academy team. So Tang Liu was sent out in this game. Although they met the seeded players, with Tang Liu, there was no need to arrange any tactics for this game. Anyway, the master's advice to them was to reduce the exposure of their strength and let Tang Liu solve everything. According to the current known information, the 8th person of the Shyandao Royal Academy team is also a Soul Emperor. If Qin Ming had not chosen to withdraw from the Shyandao Royal Academy, then he should be the 8th person of the Shyandao Royal Academy team now. Although Qin Ming's soul rings are not the best ratio, he is also from Shrek Academy, which proves that his strength is definitely not weak. At least he can cause some trouble to Tang Liu. But now, the 8th person of the Shyandao Royal Academy team is not Qin Ming, but another Soul Emperor teacher of the Shyandao Royal Academy who is not more than 30 years old. From the previous few games of the Shyandao Royal Academy team, it can be seen that their Soul Emperor is also not the best soul ring ratio, so the strength should not be as good as Qin Ming who came from Shrek. In this case, it should not be difficult to win this game. What's more, Shrek Academy has defeated them once before. And this time, Tang Liu, who they are not familiar with, will appear. Chapter 180 Ontology. The original team of the Shyandao Royal Academy team is still the same 7 people, including the captain, the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Soul Master Yu Xianhen, the Green Phosphorus Snake Soul Master, Du Yubo's granddaughter Du Yuyan, the 2 brothers of the Shi family who own the Black Turtle Martial Soul, Shimo and Shimo, the Ghost Leopard Martial Soul Oslo, the Wind Bell Bird Martial Soul Yu Fen, and the 9-Heart Begonia Soul Master Yi Lingling. And these 7 people, like the Shrek 7 Devils, are all Soul Masters. In this respect, the Shyandao Royal Academy is stronger than the Xingluo Royal Advanced Soul Master Academy, because there are only 6 Soul Masters in their team, but Davis and Zhu Zuoyan, the captain and vice-captain, have soul powers as high as level 47 and can use the Martial Soul Fusion Technique. Of course, the Martial Soul Fusion Technique alone can make up for the gap of a Soul Master. As for the Soul Master in the Shyandao Royal Academy team, according to the previous few games, she should be a controlled type Soul Master, but it is unknown what her specific Martial Soul is. Even the Master didn't see it. The game started soon. The 2 sides entered the arena and stood opposite each other on both sides of the competition venue. The Shrek 7 Devils and the original 7 people of Shyandao stood in the front, while Tang Liu and their Soul Emperor stood at the back. Then the referee spoke. Both sides are named. Yu Xianheng spoke. Shyandao Royal Academy, Yu Xianheng, 47th level strong attack system War Soul Sect. He paused, and then said, I hope to have a good fight with you this time. Then Daimyo Bei spoke. Shrek, Daimyo Bei, 46th level strong attack system War Soul Sect. Then he responded to Yu Xianheng, of course, as you wish, we will still win this time. Yu Xianheng's eyes condensed, and then he unconsciously cast his eyes on Tang Liu at the back of Shrek. His expression became a little more solemn, and he said, I'll wait. Then the referee announced the start of the game. Everyone on both sides released their martial spirits at the same time. So Shrek became the focus again. After all, among all the yellow and purple soul rings, the black on Shrek's side was like an abyss that firmly attracted everyone's attention. Of course, the Soul Emperor of Shyandao also has a black 10,000-year soul ring. But she only has 1. Shrek has 3. The Soul Emperor of Shyandao is a tall and outstanding woman. Her appearance is not the kind that makes people feel stunning at first glance, but her facial features are unique. Especially her eyes, which look like the stars in the night sky, bright and energetic. According to the Master's judgment, her soul power should be around level 62 to 64. The soul ring ratio is 2 yellow, 3 purple and 1 black, which is the same as Qin Ming, but after all, she is not the top Soul Emperor. After the game started, she did not act immediately like other Xiandao students, but locked her eyes on Tang Liu, who was also motionless. Coincidentally, Tang Liu was also looking at her. And with this look, Tang Liu also basically knew some of her information. For example, her martial soul. Then Tang Liu showed a look of surprise. Because the type of martial soul she possessed was the first one Tang Liu had seen in such a long time. Just as Dai Mubei and Yu Xianheng at the front used their first soul skills to fight each other, the soul ring of the female soul emperor began to shine. She stood there without making any moves, but then, Xiao Wu, who had found the ghost leopard soul master Oslo, suddenly groaned, staggered back, and began to bleed from her mouth and nose. Tang Liu, who had been paying attention to the female soul emperor, also noticed the fleeting golden light in her eyes when her soul ring shone. So the next moment after Xiao Wu was injured, Tang Liu used the control of the virtual spirit and the recovery of Heilin on Xiao Wu. The control of the virtual spirit allowed Xiao Wu to dodge Oslo's subsequent attack, and the recovery of Heilin allowed Xiao Wu's various states to return to the peak. So the next moment, Xiao Wu immediately teleported behind Oslo, and then stepped on Oslo's waist and kicked him far away in the direction of Zhu Xiuqing. Zhu Xiuqing followed closely, and her first soul skill, the Netherworld Stab, cast a layer of cold light on her claws. Then, along with the cold light, she passed by Oslo swiftly. Oslo was hit by the two and was seriously injured. However, Yilingling's healing spirit skill also landed on Oslo immediately, so the next moment, all the injuries on Oslo were healed. Tang San then used the blue-silver grass to pull Xiao Wu and Zhu Xiuqing back to his own camp to prevent the Shi brothers and Yu Feng's three people who had surrounded them. At this moment, only Dai Mubei and Yu Xianheng were really fighting. The control spirit masters of both sides have not taken action yet. Tang San only used his blue-silver grass to assist his teammates. Du Yuan of Xiandao has not moved since the start of the game. She just stood quietly in a position in the team that was convenient for her to support at any time, and then her attention was always on Tang San. After all, Tang San had easily broken her green phosphorus snake venom, and his grandfather respected him very much. Therefore, compared to taking the initiative to attack at the beginning, it is better to adapt to the situation, otherwise she will suffer in the end. On the Shrek side, Mo Hongjin was still protecting Ning Rongrong and Oscar, two auxiliary systems with no combatability. Tang Liu was still standing at the back, not moving. But at this moment, he smiled gently at the female soul emperor of Xiandao. The moment Xiao Wu attacked Oslo after teleporting, the female soul emperor showed a look of surprise. But the next moment, she also cast her eyes on Tang Liu, and seemed to be sure that Xiao Wu could get rid of the effect of her soul skill so quickly because Tang Liu intervened. At this time, she also saw Tang Liu smiling at her, which just verified her guess. So she immediately released her first soul skill to Tang Liu. But the next moment, she herself groaned, and then a trace of blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. She looked at Tang Liu in doubt, and for a while she didn't dare to make any more moves. She knew the effect of her soul skill very well, so she was sure that she was backfired by the soul skill just now. However, in order for this to happen, the opponent's mental power must first be higher than hers, and much higher. Now that the backlash has appeared, does it mean that Tang Liu's mental power is higher than hers? But, isn't he a soul sect? How could he have a mental power higher than her soul emperor level? Just when the female soul emperor was in doubt, Tang Liu finally understood her martial spirit thoroughly. Small theater, before the battle. Douluo, serious, Tang Liu, you promised me one thing, Tang Liu, what is it? Douluo, serious, be gentle with my granddaughter, Tang Liu, don't worry, I won't hit your granddaughter, but I don't know whether others will hide her. Douluo, with a smile, that's good. But you can beat up that guy named Yu Xianheng, Tang Liu, why? Douluo, who told him to kidnap my dear granddaughter, Tang Liu, but Yu Xianheng is my cousin, Douluo, silent for a while, are you related by blood, Tang Liu, no, but Douluo, then there is no but, just beat him up, Tang Liu, Douluo, suspicious look, why are you hesitating so much? Could it be that you like that guy named Yu Xianheng, Tang Liu, why are you slandering someone's innocence, Douluo, suspiciously, you are covering up is the fact. You like him, Tang Liu, what the hell is your logic? However, since you are not kind, don't blame me for being unjust. Tang Liu smiles, yes, you found out. I like him. But your good granddaughter actually snatched away my dear cousin. I was so jealous, so I decided to beat your granddaughter up later, Douluo. Chapter 181 Body Spirit, Eyes. Actually, he was still affected by the attack of the female soul emperor just now, but the impact only made him slightly dazed. But it was also this daze that made the female soul emperor's martial soul information fully displayed in front of him. The main body martial soul. Eyes. Yes, it was the eyes, the martial soul possessed by the most famous cub 10,000 years later. Of course, the eye martial soul of this female soul emperor is not as good as Hao's spiritual eyes. In Tang Liu's perception, her eyes are still a little bit worse, but it is still in the category of top martial souls. After all, the saying of the main body martial soul is that the more important the part of your martial soul is to your life, the stronger the martial soul will be accordingly. Eyes are one of the important ways for us to perceive the external environment, and the back is directly connected to the brain. According to Zhuan Lao, Hao's martial soul should actually be eyes and brain, so this female soul emperor should be the same. And having this eye martial soul is probably the reason why her spirit ring is not the best match, because spirit beasts with spiritual attributes are quite rare, and powerful ones are even rarer. Otherwise, she, who possessed a top-level martial spirit, would not allow her spirit rings to be not on the best ratio. In short, after quickly sorting out this information, Tang Liu also thought about what to do next to expose the least strength of the Shrek 7 devils. He pulled a blue silver grass on his waist and passed the information to Tang San. Tang San immediately understood, so he pulled Daimyo back in front. At the same time, Zhu Zhuking's figure also moved forward quickly, and under the influence of the blue silver grass, he quickly approached Daimyo. Daimyo was pulled back by the blue silver grass, and after pulling away from Yu Xianheng for a distance, he stopped. Then, he rushed forward again, but this time he directly activated the third spirit skill, and used the second spirit skill in the process of rushing forward to launch a pecking attack on Yu Xianheng with a long-range advantage of the White Tiger Fierce Light Wave. At this time, Zhu Zhuking's figure also came behind Daimyo, and from the front, her figure could not be seen at all. Facing Daimyo's White Tiger Fierce Light Wave after the White Tiger King Kong transformation, Yu Xianheng did not dare to neglect it, and immediately activated his third soul skill, Thunder Fury, to strengthen himself to resist the White Tiger Fierce Light Wave. The lightning and light waves collided in an instant, completely blocking Yu Xianheng's sight. It was at this time that Tang San activated his fourth soul skill, a large-scale blue-silver stab. Blue-silver stab array. Black blue-silver grass rose rapidly from the ground, like a forest of blue-silver grass. Because it was released instantly, the power of this blue-silver stab array was not strong, but it was just enough to block the sight of all the students of Xiandao. The female soul emperor was the first person to think of what Shrek was going to do, so her second and third soul rings flashed one after another. The invisible mental power expanded outward, and in her mind, a bird's-eye view of the competition field team was presented. All the details on it were clear. Then she saw the Xiandao people in the blue-silver grass forest, Daimyo who was still confronting Yu Xianheng, Zhu Zhuking behind him, and other Shrek students who were waiting for battle. Finally, there was Tang Liu who looked up at the sky. He smiled. He was coming for her. She couldn't help but be stunned. Then the next moment, Tang Liu raised his right hand and gently shot at the sky. Then all the images in the female soul emperor's mind disappeared. Her expression was instantly filled with horror. Then, the next moment, she suddenly heard some movement beside her. She tilted her head and saw a cold light appear behind Yulingling who was not far away from her. Her pupils shrank violently, and the sixth soul ring, which was her 10,000-year soul ring, lit up instantly. A circle of invisible mental power vibrations quickly spread outward with her as the center. She had to stop the invisible attacker before Yulingling was hit by the attack. But she failed. Because the hemispherical Haolan force field surrounded her completely. Her soul vibrations collided fiercely with the Haolan force field, causing ripples on the Haolan force field. But it was still blocked. So she could only watch Yulingling being knocked unconscious by the invisible attacker, and then being ruled out by the referee. It was at this time that the attacker showed up. It was Zhu Zhuking who was supposed to be behind Daimyo. And all this was the result of Tang Liu's virtual spirit concealment and Haolan teleportation. Whether it was Daimyo's White Tiger Fierce Light Wave or Tang San's Blue Silver Thorn Array, they were all to block the sight of the Xiandao students. Knowing that the opponent had a spiritual control spirit master, Tang Liu specially waited until he broke the opponent's spiritual detection before applying virtual spirit control to Zhu Zhuking, and then teleported her to the vicinity of Yi Lingling, just to send this 9-heart begonia spirit master with powerful healing ability off the competition stage in one fell swoop. As long as the 9-heart begonia is still there, no matter how much the students of Xiandao are injured, Yi Lingling can heal them. This kind of continuous endurance is very troublesome, so it needs to be solved as soon as possible. The cooperation between Tang Liu's second soul skill and Zhu Zhuking can just allow an assassin with extremely strong attack power to penetrate deep into the enemy's rear and then give the enemy's auxiliary system a fatal blow. After Yi Lingling was eliminated, Zhu Zhuking immediately glanced at the female soul emperor in the Haolin force field, and then her figure disappeared in a dazzling blue light. The Haolin force field surrounding the female soul emperor also shattered and disappeared. She quickly turned her head and looked through the layers of blue-silver grass at Tang Liu in the distance. Tang Liu noticed her gaze, so the next moment, he used Haolin to teleport to the front of the female soul emperor. The female soul emperor had no time to react at all, and was hit by Tang Liu's 2 fingers on the center of her eyebrows. The next moment, the female soul emperor felt a stronger and more advanced spiritual power entering her mind, sealing all her spiritual power. She was immediately horrified, and gathered all her spiritual power. She slapped Tang Liu with one palm, intending to push him away. After all, once the spiritual power is sealed, it is equivalent to her fighting power being sealed. The fighting power of a spiritual attribute soul master is proportional to the quantity and quality of spiritual power. Moreover, spiritual attribute soul masters have another characteristic, that is, their soul power and spiritual power are separate, which means that they can use soul skills through soul power, and they can also use soul skills through spiritual power. So even if the soul power is insufficient, they can still maintain good fighting power with a large amount of spiritual power. However, if the spiritual power is exhausted, then their fighting power will definitely be greatly reduced, or even completely lost. This is why the female soul emperor is so anxious now. Continued from the small drama of the previous chapter, Tang San, who heard the full text, said, brother, you can't do it, what's good about you Xianhen? Tang Hao, who overheard the whole story, which brat kidnapped my son. Don't want to live anymore. Feng Zai Ocean, heartbroken, Daimyu Bei, disillusioned, Tang Liu, rolling eyes, hey, you Xianhen, shyly, well, actually I also Tang Liu, smiling, let's go, see you in the sequel. Then I'll kick the shit out of you guys who are always thinking about turning me gay. Duguyan, so this is why her martial spirit is green. P.S. I didn't expect the author's words to have a 500-word limit. Chapter 182 Tang Liu, since you want it, I will satisfy you. However, in front of her palm, the Haolin force field appeared again and stopped her. It was only a short delay, and Tang Liu completed the ban on her mental power, and then teleported back to the back of Shrek. Xiandao's support also arrived at this time. Duguyan's poisonous fog, Yufeng's figure. But they were all a step late. The female soul emperor only felt dizzy in her mind, and finally recovered. After that, she immediately felt her situation. All her soul skills can still be used. But the power is probably less than 1/3 of her peak. After Yi Lingling was eliminated and the female soul emperor was frustrated, the remaining students of Xiandao all looked solemn. They almost all looked at Tang Liu at the back of Shrek at the same time. Yu Xianheng immediately gave his teammates a look. Yu Fang flew over quickly, then held Yu Xianheng's armpits and climbed up quickly. Then, all 4 of his spirit rings shone, and then he and Yu Xianheng turned into a shadow that was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye and flew out. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them teleported to the back of Shrek. Yu Feng also let go of Yu Xianheng at this time, letting him fall freely. At the same time, he quickly rushed towards Ning Rongrong, Oscar, and Ma Hongjin, who were closest to Tang Liu at this time, to stop their support. Xiandao's offensive was fully launched at this time. Duguyan's green phosphorus snake venom quickly spread to Shrek. Even though the female spirit emperor was limited in her mental power, she still used all her control and attack spirit skills on Shrek. Although the power was not strong, it could still buy some time. The Shi brothers immediately held Daimyu Bei and Xiao Wu, while Oslo held Zhu Zhuking. Tang San let a blue-silver grass rise layer by layer in front of him, and then let them fan it hard like a fan. so the green poisonous fog could no longer cover Shrek. Du Yuan's expression turned ugly after seeing this scene, so he immediately retracted the poison mist to avoid hurting his teammates, and instead released a long-range poison beam. While the others were fighting fiercely, Tang Liu at the back also started fighting with Yu Xianheng. "Cousin, please show some mercy." After seeing Yu Xianheng fall in front of him, Tang Liu said with a smile. Yu Xianheng looked at him solemnly. "I have heard about you from my uncle, so I should ask you to show some mercy." Tang Liu blinked and said seriously, "In that case, why don't we all let him go?" Yu Xianheng, "Don't, come on, I can't beat you anyway, so you should let him go." After saying this, he strode towards Tang Liu with a thunder dragon claw in his hand. A blue light burst out from Tang Liu's body, and he strode towards Yu Xianheng. "I call you my cousin. As the one with a higher seniority, you should go easy on me, right? I'm asking you, is this right?" Yu Xianheng, "Don't say it, I'll do my best anyway." Then he grabbed and slapped Tang Liu, looking at Tang Liu intently. "You'd better do your best too. Let me see the gap between you and me." Tang Liu casually blocked his thunder dragon claw with a blue force field, and smiled. "Forget it, going all out is the treatment only titled Douluo can get." Yu Xianheng's eyes condensed. "You are underestimating me." Tang Liu smiled. "I really don't." "Then do your best." This time he slapped Tang Liu with a thunder dragon claw, an enhanced version of thunderous fury. Tang Liu half crouched, raised his right hand to form a blue force field to block Yu Xianheng's thunder dragon claw, looked at him and said, "In that case." The next moment, Tang Liu clenched his left fist, and the blue light of the blue force field wrapped around his fist went straight to Yu Xianheng's chest, not afraid of the blue-purple electric light jumping around him. In a hurry, Yu Xianheng only had time to raise his left hand, palm forward, and use his left hand that had turned into a dragon after his martial spirit was possessed to block Tang Liu's left fist. The blue electricity and blue light spread outward radially until they formed a ring. Yu Xianheng was hit by Tang Liu's punch and flew backwards. Before he landed, Tang Liu approached again, grabbed Yu Xianheng's left and right arms with both hands, and then pulled them down. Under this force, Yu Xianheng took advantage of the situation and grabbed Tang Liu's forearm with a pair of dragon claws, but was blocked by the blue light around Tang Liu, and only felt a hard touch from the dragon claws. Moreover, his lightning attribute was not effective against Tang Liu. At this time, Yu Xianheng, who was pulled down from the air by Tang Liu, was attacked by Tang Liu again. Tang Liu first raised his knees and pressed them against Yu Xianheng's chest. The collision of the Hyaolin force field and the blue lightning once again caused a circle of ripples. Yu Xianheng's chest was hit hard, and he felt a sweetness in his throat, as if he would spit out blood in the next moment. So he couldn't help but loosen his hands that were holding Tang Liu's arms. Tang Liu wanted this opportunity. With a slight shake of his arms, he got rid of Yu Xianheng's restrictions, then retracted his palms and pushed forward with force. Yu Xianheng was hit again, and when he was about to fly out, Tang Liu reached out and grabbed his arm again. Under the influence of the two forces, Yu Xianheng felt that his eyes were black for a while and fell into short dizziness. Then, Tang Liu took a half step back with his right foot, turned his upper body slightly, and pulled Yu Xianheng in again. At the same time, his right elbow hit his chest again with the force of this rotation. Yu Xianheng finally vomited blood. But it was still not over. Tang Liu let go of Yu Xianheng's arm with his other hand at this time, and then turned his body towards him again, raised his left hand at the same time, spread his left palm, and hit Yu Xianheng's neck again with the force of rotation. Yu Xianheng fainted directly and fell to the ground. Tang Liu patted his back lightly and said, "Bye." Then a blue light flashed, and Yu Xianheng was teleported off the stage, woke up from his coma, and stood next to Yi Lingling under the stage. He still looked a little confused, but he still saw Yi Lingling beside him and Tang Liu waving to him on the stage. Yu Xianheng smiled bitterly and turned to watch the game seriously. After dealing with Yu Xianheng, Tang Liu then went to find Yu Feng, who was closest to him. Although Yu Feng could fly, Tang Liu trapped him with a Hyaolin force field, and then controlled the Hyaolin force field to send him off the stage, so the Xiandao Royal Academy team lost another member. At the same time, Zhu's Huking also defeated Oslo alone, and the Xiandao Royal Academy team was left with only Du Yuyan, the Shi brothers, and the female Soul Emperor. In order to prevent the Shrek 7 devils from being poisoned, Tang Liu went to deal with Du Yuyan first. After that, It was the Shi brothers whose martial spirits were black turtles. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183 Battle Star Luo. The defense of the Black Turtle spirit was extremely high, and it was difficult for Daimyubei and Xiao Wu to break their defense. However, after Tang Liu added the Void Spirit to himself, the hail and force field directly penetrated their spirit's defense and pushed them off the stage. As a result, the only one left in the heavenly fight was the female Soul Emperor whose spirit was sealed. After her spirit was sealed, it was difficult for the female Soul Emperor to cause damage to Shrek's students, so Tang San finally used the blue silver grass to throw her off the stage. After that, Tang Liu lifted the spirit seal on the female Soul Emperor. The referee then announced the victory of Shrek Academy. In general, this game did not cost Shrek Academy much effort. Oscar and Ningrongrong basically did not assist everyone. Tang San only used a range variation spirit skill of a 10,000-year spirit skill, the blue-silver stab array. Xiao Wu's invincible golden body was not exposed. The only thing Shrek showed was that all the members of the team were soul sects, and they had 3 10,000-year spirit rings. Even against the Soul Emperor, they could easily win. Tang Liu was still the one who shined. After all, from the beginning to the end, almost everyone in the Xiandao royal team was eliminated by him directly or indirectly. The master asked him to leak as little of the strength of the 7 monsters as possible, so he took the main attack position alone. Of course, he was also hiding his own strength. After all, he had discovered the people from the Wuhan Hall Advanced Soul Master Academy in the viewing area very early, and also found the 3 people with soul power level of Soul King. Otherwise, at the beginning of the game, he could directly use the Haolin force field to send all 8 people from Xiandao to the competition stage. But he didn't plan to use it on Xiandao. He planned to use it on the Wuhan Hall. So they couldn't see it now. Shrek's opponent in the second round-robin match was a high-level Soul Master Academy in the Xingluo Empire. So Tang Liu didn't play, and Mu Jing replaced him. The result was still as expected, and the winner was still Shrek Academy. After all, the combat power of the whole Soul Sect was enough to kill most of the participating academies in seconds. It was not until the third round-robin match that Tang Liu played again. Because they once again met a seeded team. Xingluo Royal Advanced Soul Master Academy. After the draw results came out, the players were keenly aware of Daimyubei and Zhu Zhuking's low mood. Ma Hongjin was the first to raise this question, but Daimyubei did not answer him. Zhu Zhuking later explained the reason. Of course, she did not elaborate on Daimyubei and her life experience. After listening patiently, Tang Liu said, "Don't worry, I will do my best to assist you after you go on the court. They have been partners for such a long time," and Daimyubei and Zhu Zhuking instantly understood what he meant. Tang San said, "People from Xingluo Royal High-Level Spirit Master Academy have seen our battle with Xiandao before, and they should have some understanding of our strength, especially Xiao Liu's strength." Tang Liu smiled and took over his words, "So their main attack point is on me." Tang San nodded. "According to what I Laoda and Zhu Qing said, they have the same martial spirit as you, so they must have the same martial spirit fusion technique as you. The martial spirit fusion technique of the 2 soul masters, plus their Soul Emperor, should attack Xiao Liu with all their strength at the beginning. Tang Liu, once the game starts, I will immediately deal with their Soul Emperor. Brother Bai and Zhu Qing, you can also use martial spirit fusion skills to fight them. Don't worry, Rongrong and I will do our best to assist you. By the way, don't forget to eat Xiao's pink sausage before the battle." Finally, he smiled, "We are all here, so the victory of this game must be ours." The 8 people in the monster group looked at each other, and finally smiled at each other. Then they shouted silently in their hearts at the same time. "Must win." Both sides are in agreement. The referee's voice came. At the 2 ends of the competition venue, 2 young men stood in front of the team. They had the same long golden hair. Their faces were 3 or 4 points similar. The difference was that one of them had double pupils in his eyes, and his expression was calm but he seemed to be full of fighting spirit. The other one had a solemn expression, but his eyes did not fall on the young man who looked like him. Instead, he cast his eyes on the blue-haired boy next to the young man. He stared at the boy's beautiful and weird face, and then slowly spoke. Xingluo Royal Advanced Soul Master Academy, Davis. The young man then said, Shrek Academy, Daimyo Bei. Davis then set his eyes on Daimyo Bei, and his originally solemn expression instantly became frivolous and sarcastic. He said, long time no see, brother. You have changed a lot in so many years. What, you don't want to be your playboy anymore? Tang Liu next to him instantly signaled Zhu Zhuking with his eyes. Daimyo Bei smiled slightly, then stretched out his arms and hugged Zhu Zhuking's waist as she walked towards him, and said, having Zhuking is enough for me. Zhu Zhuking also leaned on Daimyo Bei and half buried her face in his chest, so no one could see her red cheeks. Davis, who was instantly fed a mouthful of dog food, the other members of the Xingluo team who were also fed a mouthful of dog food, and the audience in the venue, Davis's face instantly darkened. How can you behave in public? Zhu Huayan beside him also said sarcastically, when did our snow princess become so proactive? Tang Liu replied sarcastically, I'm afraid that if you are more proactive than this, you will never be favored by the uncle next to you. Old woman, it's out of date. Zhu Huayan was instantly furious. Sharp-tongued kid. Tang Liu snorted coldly, same here. Davis looked at him again, his expression became solemn again. So the strongest student in Shrek is a guy who can only show off his eloquence. Tang Liu raised his head and pointed his chin at Davis. At the same time, he narrowed his eyes slightly and smiled. We are even more ashamed to fight with a hypocritical guy like you. Davis was also angry, but the etiquette he had been taught since childhood still made him restrain himself from getting angry on the spot. His voice was a little lower. I hope your strength is worthy of your face. His eyes narrowed dangerously. Otherwise, I'm not sure if I will tear it apart with my own hands. Tang Liu restrained his expression and looked over dangerously. Go ahead and try. Zhu Huayan interrupted. I must scratch your face, little brat. Tang Liu's eyes moved between the two of them, and then he curled his lips. Brother Bai, Zhuking. Do you mind? Daimyo Bei glanced at Zhu Zhuking in his arms, and then said lightly, please feel free. So the smile on Tang Liu's face became even stronger. Small theater, the original concept one. Tang Liu raised his head, pointed his chin at Davis, and narrowed his eyes slightly, and then smiled. Suddenly, the whole person seemed to be glowing. Davis felt like he was hit by something for a moment. I hope you. Tang Liu raised his eyebrows and smiled. Hope for what? Davis, the initial idea too. Davis sneered. Wow, our playboy has changed. Daimyo Bei grabbed Tang Liu beside him with a proud look, because I have Xia Liu. That's enough. Davis, Zhu Zhuking, Tang Liu, looked confused. No, brother, this script is different from what we discussed at the beginning. Tang San at the back, how sudden. Guard day and night, teammates are hard to guard. Boss I misjudged you. Tang Hao in the dark, couldn't help but smash the wall beside him. I think the Haoshan sect doesn't need to support the Xingluo Empire anymore. Support Xian Dao, and destroy them. Feng Zai Ocean, no, fair competition. Fair competition. You can't just take Tang Liu like this. Tang Liu, I must kick these perverts. Chapter 184. They have already transformed. The referee, who had long been unable to bear it, immediately shouted loudly, the game begins. MD, they are showing off their love at such a young age, but what should he do as a single man who has been single for more than 50 years? The moment the referee's voice fell, both sides released their martial spirits at the same time, and the players who served as the main output immediately rushed forward. Tang Liu's eyes immediately locked on the Soul Emperor of Xingluo. However, what surprised him was that the Soul Emperor of Xingluo did not stand at the front of their team, but stood at the back of the team. In addition, his soul rings were also the best ratio, with two 10,000-year soul rings. However, this did not affect the plan that Tang Liu and his team had made at the beginning, so he immediately used Haolin to teleport to the back of the Soul Emperor. Tang Liu did not even look at what his martial spirit was, and then used the Haolin force field to create a force that knocked him far away. Seeing this, the battle soul masters around the Soul Emperor immediately rushed forward and used their soul skills to attack Tang Liu. Davis and Zhu Huayan in front of them naturally noticed the commotion in the rear of their camp. They wanted to come to support immediately. After all, the key to whether they could defeat Tang Liu was the Soul Emperor. Even if their Soul Emperor existed, even if the Spirit Hall had 3 Soul Kings, or even if the newly added 8th person was a Soul Saint, they would have a great chance of winning. However, before the two of them had run for 2 steps, Two figures from Shrek quickly came up and attacked them. They were Daimyubei and Zhu Xiuqing. Daimyubei fired a white tiger fierce light wave at Davis. Davis was keenly aware of the abnormality behind him, so he immediately leaned to the side and dodged the white tiger fierce light wave. He then turned around and sneered at Daimyubei, "You don't know what you can do." Then, he also sprayed a white tiger fierce light wave at Daimyubei. However, what he didn't expect was that Daimyubei not only did not dodge, but rushed directly towards the white tiger fierce light wave. Then, Davis was surprised to find that his white tiger fierce light wave actually passed through Daimyubei directly without causing any harm to him. Daimyubei glanced at the vines wrapped around his arm, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Then, he shouted loudly, and the third and fourth soul rings lit up quickly, and the white tiger meteor shower under the blessing of the white tiger King Kong transformation all hit Davis. At the same time, behind Shrek, Ningrongrong's soul power amplification light also fell on Daimyubei. Seeing this, Davis just snorted coldly, and then also lit up the third and fourth soul rings, also the white tiger King Kong transformation plus the white tiger meteor shower. Large areas of golden light quickly collided with each other, and then, in Davis's horrified look, Daimyubei's white tiger meteor shower all passed through his meteor shower, and then almost all exploded around him. As for his own white tiger meteor shower, it exploded on the competition stage behind Daimyubei, but failed to hurt Daimyubei at all. When the smoke and dust cleared, Davis covered his chest with his hands, and there was a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth. He looked at Daimyubei with shock and cruelty, and then said, "In the previous game, I was surprised to see that you had reached the soul sect level. But I didn't expect that I still underestimated you. After so many years, I didn't expect that you have grown to such a level." Daimyubei just looked at him solemnly. "I promise, you will see more surprises." Davis sneered, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and rushed towards Daimyubei again. Daimyubei's figure also moved, with a white tiger protective barrier added to his body, and his fists with a strong and domineering golden light went towards Davis. While the two brothers were competing, the Zhu sisters on the other side were also fighting in full swing. Although Zhu's Huayan soul power is much higher than Zhu's Xiuqing, Shrek has a 9 treasures glazed tower, and the soul power and speed increase added to Zhu's Xiuqing makes her not inferior to Zhu's Huayan at all. Zhu's Huayan had a look of subtle cruelty. While competing with Zhu's Xiuqing in the world of extreme speed, she was talking to Zhu's Xiuqing. But Zhu's Xiuqing kept a cold face and didn't answer her at all. She didn't feel embarrassed, but spoke more vigorously. "You have only been away from home for 2 years, and you can actually cultivate to the soul sect. To be honest, when I saw your first game, I was surprised for a long time. But now it seems that it is nothing more than that." Zhu's Huayan used all his strength to laugh at Zhu's Xiuqing. At this time, Zhu's Xiuqing finally responded a little. She curled her lips and smiled lightly, and whispered, "No more than that." Zhu's Huayan snorted coldly, and rushed towards Zhu's Xiuqing with several afterimages. Then, the third soul ring flashed, and the cold light slashed towards Zhu's Xiuqing like a sharp blade. But Zhu's Huayan only saw Zhu's Xiuqing smiled at her lightly, and then the whole person disappeared on the spot. Zhu's Huayan's attack then failed, and she stood there, crouching slightly, looking around vigilantly. But after looking for a long time, she still didn't see Zhu's Xiuqing, so she gritted her teeth and said, "Where did this little girl go?" In a flash, a cold light came from behind her and hid her back. But at the moment when it was about to hit, the cold light suddenly deviated from its trajectory and hit Zhu's Huayan's waist. So the next moment, Zhu's Huayan's figure couldn't help but fall forward. Her reaction was also fast. She supported herself with both hands on the ground, her figure flipped, turned in the air, and landed lightly. She looked at the direction of the previous attack with doubts. Invisible. As soon as she said this, the cold light came from behind her again, but this time the speed was much faster. Her figure fell forward again, but this time she couldn't stand up again like last time, because the cold light attacked her again when her figure left the ground, and this time it attacked directly from 3 directions at the same time. Several wounds suddenly appeared on Zhu's Huayan's body. At the same time, the speed of the 3 cold lights became faster and faster. In the blink of an eye, they launched dozens of attacks on Zhu's Huayan. Zhu's Huayan fell to the ground with the wounds all over his body, and Zhu's Xiuqing's figure appeared. She turned her back to Zhu's Huayan, leaving her with only a side profile. Her expression was still so cold. She glanced at the bloodstains left on her claws, and then the two clones beside her turned into streams of light and dissipated. Zhu Huayan looked at her in disbelief and said with some difficulty, "You, how is it possible?" Zhu Huqing turned around and looked down at Zhu Huayan on the ground, "Because, I am stronger than you." Chapter 185, Spirit, Star Crown. Zhu Huayan's mind was instantly filled with anger. She screamed, "I'm going to kill you." The next moment, she rushed towards Zhu Huqing again. Zhu Huqing's figure also turned into a residual shadow and avoided Zhu Huayan. The battle between the speedsters started again. The sight turned to Tang Liu behind Zhengluo. After Tang Liu knocked the Soul Emperor away, he just used the Hyaolin force field to push away the Zhengluo team members who surrounded him, and then rushed towards the Soul Emperor again. After that, the Zhengluo team members who surrounded him were trapped in the place by the rising blue-silver cage, so they had to deal with the blue-silver grass that trapped them first. After the Soul Emperor was knocked away, he did not lose his composure, but calmly released the force and stabilized his body. After landing on the ground again, he immediately used his third soul skill. A diamond-shaped golden gem mark appeared on his forehead, and then a faint light shot out from the gem and finally spread around him. After being touched by this light, Tang Liu suddenly felt that the speed of the soul power in his body stagnated. But the next moment, the body was covered by blue light, and the feeling of sluggishness disappeared. Tang Liu looked at the Soul Emperor in surprise, and then saw an extremely dazzling crown that appeared on his head. His eyes immediately lit up with blue light, and the information of the Soul Emperor instantly appeared in his mind, overlapping with a memory of his, which just happened to confirm his guess. He looked at the Soul Emperor and asked, "Is your surname Su?" The Soul Emperor seemed a little surprised, then nodded and said, "Yes, my name is Su Ming." Sure enough, another top-level weapon spirit owner. And it is an ancient spirit that combines assistance and control. It is as powerful as the 7 treasures glazed pagoda of the 7 treasures glazed sect and is not inferior to the 9 treasures glazed pagoda that Ning Rongrong now owns. Star Crown. In this case, there is no more delay. Tang Liu is also familiar with the plot of Douluo, so he naturally remembers the trouble that Princess Sujiujiu brought to Hogua in Douluo. Although Sujiujiu had the strength of 5 rings at that time, Hogua was only a great spirit master. Tang Liu remembered that when he first watched it, he only thought it was good-looking, but when he thought about it later, he found that Hou Hao was really hanging out. In the elite competition of the All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy, which was averaged among soul sects, soul kings, and soul emperors, he, as a great soul master, could actually fight with those soul sects, soul kings, and even soul emperors, and even won. He really deserved the name of Hogua. In short, after knowing that the other party was a soul emperor with a star crown martial spirit, Tang Liu's attitude became more serious. He had to guard against Su Ming using the soul skill called Star Guardian. With the current 7 monsters, even Dai Mubei and Zhu Huqing would find it difficult to break the Star Guardian using their martial soul fusion skills. After all, even Hou Hao and Wang Dong could only break the Star Guardian because their martial soul fusion skills just happened to restrain it. Otherwise, with their cultivation of great soul masters and soul masters, they would not have enough attack power to break the Star Guardian. Dai Mubei and Zhu Huqing's martial soul fusion skill, Nether White Tiger, tends to be a continuous battle and lacks explosive power. It is very difficult to break the Star Guardian that needs to be prepared every 81 days before it can be released. Tang Liu did not know whether he would also be restricted by the Star Guardian, so the best choice at the moment was to fight quickly and not give Su Ming the opportunity to release the Star Guardian. So the blue light radiating from Tang Liu's body became more dazzling in an instant. The next moment, several Hyaolin force fields appeared behind him, and then quickly stabbed towards Su Ming. Su Ming's expression became much more solemn. The 5th soul ring lit up, and the gem on the star crown on his head shot out several starlights again, interweaving around him to form a network formed by starlight, and finally stopped those swift Hyaolin force fields. But Tang Liu's response was also very fast. The originally hard and sharp Hyaolin force field quickly softened and turned into ropes, intertwined with the star network, and then directly passed through the tiny gaps between the star networks, and finally entangled Su Ming, completely restricting his movements. At this moment, Tang Liu's left eye instantly emitted a strange green light. The next moment, Su Ming fell into stagnation and was pulled into the illusion by Tang Liu. The star net around him also disappeared. Tang Liu walked in front of Su Ming, patted him on the shoulder, and then teleported him out of the competition stage. At this time, the Xingluo team members finally escaped from the blue-silver cage, and their faces changed when they saw this scene. They rushed towards Tang Liu again, and their attacking spirit skills smashed towards Tang Liu in a chaotic manner. Tang Liu smiled, made a bow gesture to them, and then disappeared in a blue light, leaving all the attacks in the air. At this time, dense blue-silver grass rose from the ground, turning into sharp spikes, pushing these Xingluo team members, as well as Davis in front who turned into Zhu Ian, into the air. Tang San finally used the blue-silver thorn formation that he had been accumulating power until now. Tang Liu, who had teleported away, appeared in the air again at some point. While all the students of Xingluo were dizzy, he waved his right hand in front of him and scattered several blue force fields like beans, pushing them all out of the competition stage, leaving only Davis and Zhu Ian. After doing all this, Tang Liu teleported back to the back of Shrek and glanced at Ning Rongrong and Oscar beside him. The two understood and immediately activated their soul skills. Oscar chanted his soul spell and made 2 pink sausages, throwing them to Daimubei and Zhu King in front respectively. Ning Rongrong's 4 amplification soul skills were all applied to Daimubei and Zhu King: strength, speed, soul power, and defense. At this time, the restriction effect of Tang San's blue-silver thorn formation also ended. Davis and Zhu Ian, who were deliberately pushed to one place by the blue-silver grass, quickly hugged each other. The light spread, and the huge netherworld white tiger appeared on the competition stage, rushing towards the Shrek people with a cruel momentum. However, a similar netherworld white tiger blocked the Shrek students at this time, and then rushed towards another netherworld white tiger. Just before the 2 netherworld white tigers roared and attacked each other, Tang Liu waved his left hand gently, and the void blue-silver emperor stretched out its vines in his palm. The wind caresses the blue-silver. Has the void spirit heard it? The first soul ring around him fell on the void blue-silver emperor, and then he heard him say, he said, "Exile." Chapter 186 Daimubei, going to Xingluo? There seemed to be a huge shadow flashing behind Tang Liu. Space and time seemed to freeze for a moment. Then, Davis and Zhu Ian's nether white tiger became visibly more illusory. Then, the 2 nether white tigers on the field collided with each other. Davis and Zhu Ian's nether white tiger was slapped away by Daimubei and Zhu King's nether white tiger. Of course, their tiger paws also slapped Daimubei and Zhu King, but they just passed through without causing any damage to Daimubei and Zhu King. Ethereal spirit, exile. The barrier of space and time cannot be crossed. Immediately reduce or upgrade the dimension of the designated target. The target with reduced dimension can no longer affect everything in this world, but this world can affect it. The target with upgraded dimension will not be affected by anything in this world, but it can affect this world. The first soul skill after the soul spell upgrade is almost equivalent to an alternative version of invincibility, so Davis's netherworld white tiger was defeated by Daimubei's netherworld white tiger in a short while, until it turned into Davis and Zhu Ian again, and then knocked them off the competition stage in a mess. However, before the 2 fell off the competition stage, Tang Liu did not forget to throw out 2 Haolin force fields, leaving a faint scratch on Davis and Zhu Ian's faces respectively. Tang Liu snorted and muttered, "You still want to scratch my face? Jealousy will bring you trouble." Tang San rubbed his head and smiled. "When did you become so vindictive?" "Tang Liu, I have always been vindictive. For example, when we were young, you secretly flicked me, and then I flicked it back." Tang San, he coughed lightly, and his cheeks were actually stained with some red. "What happened when we were young? Why do you still mention it now?" Tang Liu smiled, and then lifted the void exile on Davis and Zhu Ian. Unlike the void control, void exile requires him to maintain it continuously. The stronger the target is and the longer the exile time, the more soul power he consumes, and the amount consumed is basically the same as the use of the Haolan spell at the beginning. After the referee announced the victory of the game, Daimubei and Zhu King took the initiative to cancel the martial soul fusion skill, and Tang Liu immediately gave them Haolan recovery to help them replenish their status. After that, everyone clearly saw the excitement in their eyes. Although no one said anything, they were still happy for them from the bottom of their hearts. That night, Daimubei came to Tang San and Tang Liu alone and confessed his life experience. "Xiao Liu should have known it, Xiao San, you should have guessed it too, right? Or, Xiao Liu told you." Daimubei sat on the chair and looked at the 2 brothers sitting in front of him. Tang San couldn't help but glance at Tang Liu beside him, and then said, "He has a lot of things hidden, but he didn't tell me anything. But, Dai Lauda, I did guess your life experience. So, should I call you Your Highness the Prince now?" At the end of his speech, Tang San couldn't help laughing. Dai Mubei also laughed. "Why do we talk about this between brothers? But you guessed right, I am the third prince of the Xingluo Empire. Davis is my eldest brother and the first heir to the Xingluo throne. But today we defeated them, which means that he lost the opportunity to inherit the throne. In the future, the throne of Xingluo will definitely be mine. After this competition, we should graduate from the academy, and then Zuqing and I will return to the Xingluo Empire. Xiao-san, why don't you go back with us, and take Xiao Wu with you? The Spirit Hall has noticed you now, but once you return to Xingluo, it will be my territory, and the Spirit Hall will have to think carefully before they can make a move on you. To be honest, if it weren't for the Spirit Hall's interference, the entire Douluo continent would now belong to our Xingluo Empire. Because whether it's politics, military, or cohesion, Tiandao can't compare to us. Although the battle for the throne in our family is cruel, it is precisely this cruel competition that makes the emperors born in each generation outstanding, so that our Xingluo can be so strong. As long as you go back with me, once I become the emperor, you will be the empire's military advisor and the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. Why should you be afraid of the Spirit Hall at that time? Although what Dai Mubei said was true, Tang San still declined. Boss Dai, you know, after graduation, I may follow my teacher to study hard for a while. However, if I really have to choose a country to rely on in the future, I will definitely choose the Xingluo Empire first. Although Dai Mubei felt a little regretful, he had to give up. After they finished communicating, Tang Liu spoke up and said, "Why, Brother Bai, are you only recruiting my brother? What about me? You don't ask." Dai Mubei was stunned for a moment and said, "Aren't you and Xiao-san together?" Tang Liu glanced at his elder brother with disdain and said, "How can that be? He is almost a family man. Wouldn't it be inappropriate for me to disturb him? So it's better to go out and have some fun. Maybe I can meet a confidant or something." Tang San and Dai Mubei were immediately at a loss for words. Dai Mubei then said, "Well, Xiao Liu, are you willing to go back to Xingluo with me?" Dai Mubei was just asking casually, because although Tang Liu said that it was not appropriate to stay with Tang San in the future, based on the feelings between the two brothers, it was unlikely that they would be separated. However, what surprised Dai Mubei was that Tang Liu agreed. "Yes, why not?" Tang Liu answered casually. Dai Mubei blurted out, "Why?" Tang Liu said, "As a matter of course, because our Haoshan sect originally supports your Xingluo Empire. What's wrong with me going back to Xingluo with you?" Dai Mubei was stunned for a moment, then said, "But, haven't the Haoshan sect and the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family always been neutral and not helping anyone?" Tang Liu, that was after the Haoshan sect announced the closure of the mountain. Before the closure of the mountain, the Haoshan sect absolutely supported Xingluo. Oh, by the way, when the Haoshan sect announced the closure of the mountain, you were probably only 2 or 3 years old. It's normal that you didn't know. Dai Mubei thought to himself, then you haven't been born yet, how do you know? However, then thinking about Tang Liu's ability, it doesn't seem to be that strange to know these. Tang Liu then said, "Although I can't represent the Haoshan sect, of course I don't want to go to your Xingluo Empire in the name of the Haoshan sect, but I think my value should be about the same as that of a Haoshan sect." Mini theater, Dai Mubei, Xiao-san, come with me to Xingluo. When the time comes, I will be the emperor, and you will be the empire's military advisor, commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. Tang San, tactfully, but maybe not. Tang Liu, although my brother is not going. Brother Bai, why don't you ask me if I want to go? Dai Mubei pulled him over, affectionately, because you are my imperial concubine. You have to go whether you agree or not. Tang Liu, he actually just wants to be a national teacher. Dai Mubei smiles. So you're going to Xingluo, to be an imperial concubine. You don't have the right to refuse. Tang Liu, excuse me, can I say gun? Tang San, every day someone tries to make my cute, lovely and beautiful brother gay. What should I do? Waiting online, very urgent. Best answer, you go first, so that the good things don't flow to outsiders. Tang San, great idea, but I'm just afraid that my dad will break my legs. Tang Hao. Chapter 187. Do you have ambition? Dai Mubei quickly weighed the pros and cons in his mind. From the perspective of other people in the Xingluo Empire, Tang Liu certainly could not compare to the behemoth Haotian sect, but he knew all of Tang Liu's details. Twin martial souls, innate level 20 full soul power. Needless to say, the second martial soul Haolan's magic is peculiar. Once Tang Liu enters the level of title Douluo in the future, it is estimated that it will be difficult for anyone in this world to threaten him. And with his talent, it can be said that he will definitely be able to cultivate to the extreme of a soul master in the future. At that time, he will be truly invincible in the world. An invincible soul master who is on good terms with Xingluo and has the support of the Haotian sect. Daimyubei felt that if Tang Liu really reached the 99th level in the future, he would dare to flatten the Xingdao Great Forest. So, he immediately said seriously, Xiao Liu, I don't think my promise can keep you forever. I can only say that as long as I am here, you have power in Xingluo that is second only to the imperial power, or even equal to the imperial power. Tang Liu waved his hands quickly. No, I have never studied politics, I can only help you as a thug or something. I think if I go back to Xingluo with you, it will at most serve as a deterrent. Don't bother me for anything else. After all, he is a science student, not a liberal arts student. Of course, it is also okay for him to teach physics, chemistry and biology. He continued, also, I will not go back to Xingluo with you immediately after the end. And let me make it clear first, you can't restrict my freedom when I go to your place. Of course, I can guarantee to be available at any time, but you can't let me do everything. I hate trouble the most, and, the more he talked, the more he found that there were more things he needed to pay attention to, so he couldn't help but feel a little annoyed for a while. How could he buy himself so easily? Daimyubei couldn't stand it anymore, so he interrupted him and said with a smile, don't worry, there's not so much for you to do, just do your own thing. Tang Liu, keep your word, otherwise I won't go. Daimyubei smiled and said, don't worry. After sending Daimyubei away, Tang San set his sights on Tang Liu. Tang Liu felt uncomfortable being looked at by him, and twisted his butt restlessly on the bed. Brother, just tell me if you have anything to say. I always feel like I'm in danger when you look at me like this. Tang San. He left the door of the room, dragged a chair over, and sat in front of Tang Liu. Are you really sure you want to go back to Xingluo with Best Dai? Tang Liu nodded. Yes, let's go there to play for a while, and treat it as a trip. Tang San said seriously, is it just to play? Of course not. If Brother Bai wants my help, I will help him. Then have you ever considered, what if Boss Dai asks you to do something you don't want to do? Then don't do it. Brother Bai can't force me anyway. Tang San's expression became more serious. What if you happen to owe him a favor? Tang Liu couldn't find anything to say, so he could only, Tang San sighed, so this is why I didn't agree directly. No decision is made hastily. With Boss Dai's personality, although he won't let you do something you don't want to do, who can be really sure? People will change, Xiao Liu. In short, be careful. If you get into trouble, come to me. Tang Liu seemed a little depressed. Then he fell on the bed, covered his head with a pillow, and looked like he didn't want to pay attention to anyone. Tang San sighed again and said, get up quickly. Tang Liu did not respond. Tang San patted his piggy and smiled helplessly. Get up quickly, go wash up first. Tang Liu's voice came out vaguely from under the pillow. Got it. Tang San smiled and rolled his eyes, then stretched his hands under Tang Liu and exerted force. Tang Liu was picked up by a princess. Tang Liu, Tang San, go wash up quickly. Looking at Tang San lying quietly on the bed, the green light in Tang Liu's left eye gradually faded. Looking at his brother's sleeping face, Tang Liu was silent for a long time, then sighed and said softly, most of the time, I just pretend not to understand. He paused, and then spoke again, I'm sorry, brother. He turned his head and looked at Daimyubei, who had been sitting beside him from beginning to end. Tang Liu's expression was a little indifferent, and his tone was also a little indifferent. Although Daimyubei was silent, he listened very seriously. Brother Bai, do you have ambitions? Shrek did not face another seeded team in the fourth round of the round-robin match. But today there are two other seeded teams competing. Spirit Hall High-Level Spirit Master Academy versus Xingluo Royal High-Level Spirit Master Academy. After Shrek quickly finished his own game, he returned to the viewing area, waiting for the start of this game. Even Tang Liu did not go back to practice, but chose to stay and watch the game. He mainly wanted to see whether the spirit owner of Xingluo's Star Crown would use Star Guardian against Spirit Hall, and also wanted to see how Spirit Hall would respond when facing Star Guardian. When competing with Xingluo yesterday, Tang Liu chose to quickly deal with Su Ming, just to let him use Star Guardian to fight against Spirit Hall. Then, the purpose of this matter is to see how strong the 8th person of Spirit Hall is. In the previous game, Spirit Hall did not send out the 3 Soul Kings, and the 8th person was just an ordinary Soul Emperor. But now in this game, the 3 Soul Kings of Spirit Hall cannot help but fight, and the 8th person has also changed. It was a man covered in a black robe. Tang Liu looked at him immediately. But he saw nothing. This was the first time that Howland's spell failed. So he immediately took it seriously. Then he turned to look at Mu Jing beside him and asked, "The one who sent you to the botanical college is him, right?" Mu Jing nodded, her eyes fixed on the man in the black robe. "It's him." Tang Liu's expression suddenly became more serious. A person he couldn't see through, and he also belonged to the Spirit Hall. Then can this person still stay? At this time, Douluo, who was watching the game with the Shrek group, also introduced them to everyone. "Look, the 3 people standing in the front, the one in the middle is called Ziyu, his martial spirit is a pair of moon blades, and he is a level 52 strong attack system war spirit king. The girl next to him is his sister, named Hulina, a level 51 control system war spirit king, and his martial spirit is a fox. The last one is called Yan, his martial spirit is the Flame Lord, and he is a level 52 strong attack system war spirit king." Everyone nodded, and then Tang San asked, "What about the 8th person standing at the back, old monster? Do you know who he is, small theater?" "Tang Liu, let me make it clear first, you can't restrict my freedom when I go over there." Daimyo Bei, distracted, restriction, freedom. The following is Daimyo Bei's imagination. Main film begins. The palace of Xingluo is very large, and there is a bedroom that is the most beautiful. There are birds singing and flowers blooming, and it gathers the wonders of the world, including the most beautiful person in the world. But it is also a cage, because the canary of the current emperor is imprisoned there. Few ministers and maids in the palace can enter there. But every time you pass by, you can hear the laughter of His Majesty and the beauty. Sometimes it is His Majesty's low and flirtatious tone, and then the beauty will give a touching and shy laugh. Sometimes it is His Majesty and the beauty, which makes the passing maids blush. Oh, it is said that the beauty's surname is Tang. See the extra chapter, Daimyo Bei, Tang Liu, Brother Bai? What are you thinking about? You have a nosebleed, Daimyo Bei. No, I'm not thinking about the canary, Tang Liu. Chapter 188 Almost kneeling in seconds. Douluo shook his head. "I don't know, I've never seen him. But even I can't see through this person. You still have to be careful." "What are you afraid of? We have Xia Aliu here," Ning Rongrong said with a smile. Oscar gently pulled her hand. "It's better not to underestimate the enemy." So Ning Rongrong stuck out her tongue at him and whispered, "I know." The game started soon. As a controlled type Soul King who controls with charm, Hulina caused a lot of trouble to Xingluo at the beginning of the game. But after the Star-Crowned Soul Emperor Su Ming used the 3rd soul skill, the Star Shining technique, Hulina's control effect on the people of Xingluo was instantly greatly reduced. Not long after, Hulina and Ziyu used the martial soul fusion skill, the Demon Charm, which made the pink mist spread almost all over the field. But even so, the effect of the Demon Charm to reduce perception was still weakened a lot under the effect of the Star Shining technique. Afterwards, Su Ming's 1st soul skill, the Star Attraction technique, pointed out the location of everyone in the Martial Soul Hall for everyone in Xingluo in this mist. In general, the two sides are basically evenly matched, and this is all the result of a star-crowned martial spirit. Tang Liu was secretly amazed while observing the situation on the field. However, until now, the 8th person of the Spirit Hall has not made a move. Although there is the guidance of the star-crowned martial spirit, the attack power of Xingluo is still somewhat inferior to that of the Spirit Hall. In addition, Davis and Zhu Zuoyan did not know why they had not used the martial soul fusion technique, so it didn't take long for Xingluo to be at a disadvantage again. It was at this time that Su Ming finally used his 4th soul skill, Star Guardian. Tang Liu was refreshed and immediately focused on the situation on the field. I saw 18 bright stars appear around the players of the Spirit Hall in an instant, surrounding them all. The next moment, a barrier unfolded from the 18 stars, covering the players of the Spirit Hall, leaving only Yao Mei and the 8th person outside. It was at this time that Davis and Zhu Zuoyan used their martial soul fusion technique, and then the huge nether white tiger rushed to the 8th person at the back. Yao Mei wanted to stop him, but Su Ming activated his 5th soul skill, and several star rays bound Yao Mei in place, making it difficult to move for a while. Then, all the other students of Xingluo rushed to Yao Mei and threw all their attack soul skills at Yao Mei. The 8th person of the Spirit Hall was attacked by the Nether White Tiger, Yao Mei was besieged by Xingluo, and the other people of the Spirit Hall were all trapped in the Star Guardian. They could only use soul skills to attack the barrier, and wanted to escape early, but it did not have much effect on the Star Guardian. The 18 stars were still dimming one by one very slowly. This soul skill, which needs to absorb starlight for 9,981 days every time it is used, finally showed its strength. It seems that this is a good situation for Xingluo. However, the 8th person of the Spirit Hall moved. His figure was so fast that it was almost difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. In the last second, he was still standing still. But the next moment, he came behind the Nether White Tiger. The huge Nether White Tiger froze in place and then let out a painful roar. Then, it exploded into thousands of lights, revealing Davis and Zhu Zuoyan, who were already unconscious on the ground. The 8th person took another step and lightly pressed his palm on the Star Guardian. Cracks started from his palm and began to spread outward. Then, the Star Guardian was completely shattered, and the members of the Spirit Hall successfully escaped. This powerful soul skill could not last for more than a second in his hands. The 8th person did not stop. In the blink of an eye, he came in front of Su Ming. As Su Ming's pupils shrank violently, he flicked his fingers. Even though Su Ming's body was covered with star lines of his 6th soul skill, it did not stop the 8th person at all. Su Ming flew directly out of the competition stage. The starlight that bound the enchanting beauty also disappeared. And he just took a step, and his figure suddenly returned to the back of the Spirit Hall team, quietly watching other students deal with the remaining students of Xingluo one by one. In less than a minute, the game was over. It was like a one-sided massacre. Xiao Liu, did you see anything? Tang San walked to Tang Liu and asked him in a low voice. Tang Liu shook his head and said, I can't see anything. How he broke Davis and Zhu Zuoyan's Nether White Tiger, and how he broke the Star Guardian with one blow, I can't see it. Then are you sure you can defeat him? Tang Liu thought for a moment and said, it's a bit risky, but we can contain him. But then, Tang San smiled and said, leave the other 7 to us. Although our cultivation is not as good as theirs for the time being, we should be able to defeat them. After all, we still have a lot of trump cards to play. Tang Liu nodded, then I will do my best to contain him. If I have the energy to spare, I will help you deal with their Soul King. At this time, the referee announced the end of the game and announced the victory of the Spirit Hall. Then Tang San and Tang Liu, who had been paying attention to the situation on the field, saw Ziyu looking at them. Then, he gestured a gesture of wiping his neck to the two of them. Tang San and Tang Liu looked at each other, and then looked at Ziyu at the same time. Tang Liu stuck out his tongue and made a face at him, using the most childish method to respond to Ziyu's provocation. It must be said that this trick is sometimes very effective, especially for those who want to compete with you and think highly of themselves. Although it is not possible to make him directly angry, it is still very good to disgust him. After Ziyu saw Tang Liu's deliberately funny face, his heart was immediately filled with irritability and depression, and he felt that he had used his strength in the wrong way. In short, it was very uncomfortable. If Ziyu had a hotter temper, such as the old man named Yan beside him, then he would not only feel annoyed at this moment, but he might also explode on the spot. After all, in his opinion, you are looking down on him by using the means that everyone would use in elementary school. However, such people are a minority in our reality. After all, everyone comes from a quality education, and no matter how brainless a person is, he will not easily fall for such a small trick. As for Tang San, his response was even simpler. The purple demon eye was used, and a simple mental shock was released to Ziyu. Tang San's purple demon eye had already reached the mustard seed level. His mental power might not be as good as Tang Liu's now, but he could still win over Ziyu, a soul king who is not good at mental power. So Ziyu was hit, and while feeling slightly dizzy, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. I watched Happy Death Day 1 and 2 the other day. Are they really horror movies? Chapter 189, Shiandao 7 in 1 Combination Technique. As expected, Tang San is a man who should not be underestimated. He is worthy of being a person who has absorbed 10,000-year spirit rings with only 4 rings. This episode did not affect anything. After watching the game, everyone still did what they had to do. Training, being specially trained by the master, and competing with each other are basically the schedule of Shrek students after the game. Then at night, the master came to announce the list of the top 8 for them. In the round-robin match of 16-8, only Shrek and Spirit Hall won all 4 games, so the points of the 2 teams are the same. However, considering that Shrek defeated 2 seeded teams successively, it ranked first, and the second place was the Spirit Hall Advanced Spirit Master Academy. After that, the third place was SYNOPSIS Academy, because they only lost in the battle with Shrek. From then on until the 8th place, they were all academies that won 3 games. Therefore, Douluo Royal Advanced Spirit Master Academy, which lost 2 games, naturally had to regretfully withdraw from this all-continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy elite competition. After the 16-8 match, all teams rested for only 1 day, and then the 8-4 elimination match began. The 8-4 match system is very simple. Each academy only has 1 match, and the opponents are determined by drawing lots. In the end, the 4 winning teams enter the top 4 and prepare for the semifinals to select the top 3. Shrek's 8-4 opponents did not encounter the last 2 seeded teams, so the Shrek 7 Devils plus Mujing did not spend much effort to win the game. However, SYNOPSIS Royal Academy did not have such good luck. The opponent of SYNOPSIS Royal Academy is the Wuhan Hall Advanced Soul Master Academy. At this point, the direction of the world once again overlaps with a plot that Tang Liu is familiar with. After Shrek finished the game, it was the turn of SYNOPSIS Royal Academy. The Shrek people who walked off the competition stage happened to run into the oncoming SYNOPSIS students. Yu Shi and Heng looked at Tang San and said, "We definitely have no chance in this competition. However, we will try our best to make the Spirit Hall reveal more strength, especially their 8th man. You let Tang Liu keep an eye on him." Tang San looked at him in silence for a long time, then nodded and said, "Okay." After a pause, he added, "Come on." Yu Shi and Heng nodded slightly, then led the team members onto the competition stage. Dai Mubei asked at this time, "Zio-san, what do you think the chances of Yu Shi and Heng and the others winning are?" Tang San shook his head slightly and said, "It's lower than that of Douluo Royal Advanced Soul Master Academy. After all, they don't have spirit fusion skills, nor do they have powerful spirit skills like Star Guardian. Even if they did, facing the mysterious 8th man of the Spirit Hall, it would be just a flash in the pan. Perhaps, they will be defeated not long after they go on the court. That control-type Soul King named Hulina alone should be able to control them all to death. They are not like Douluo, nor like us, who have the means to restrain charm." Everyone walked all the way back to the viewing area, and the game had just begun at this time. Tang San immediately came to Tang Liu. "Pay attention to their 8th person." Tang Liu nodded, "I've been watching. Maybe I can really see something this time." Tang San was a little curious. "Why?" "Just yesterday, Yu Shi and Heng went to see Uncle in person." Tang Liu answered him, "Maybe Uncle gave him some advice to defeat the enemy." Then, as soon as he finished speaking, everyone present saw what the advice was. At the moment the game started, except for the owner of the main body Martial Spirit Eye, the other 7 people in Xiandao instantly stood in a straight line. Yi Lingling, who was a support system, stood at the end. In front were Yu Feng, Oslo, Shimo and Shimo, Du Yan, and Yu Shi and Heng at the front. Except for Yu Shi and Heng, the other 6 people stretched out their arms at the same time, and then pressed against the back of the person in front. Soul power surged, and then rioted. Everyone's soul power gathered on Yu Shi and Heng alone. Yu Shi and Heng couldn't help but let out a somewhat painful roar. Then, the next moment, a huge blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex appeared on the competition stage amidst the loud roar. After seeing this scene, the Shrek 7 Devils looked at each other in shock. "What's going on? Isn't this what the master taught us?" Oscar said in disbelief. Tang San was also surprised, but what surprised him was that the power of the 7-person martial spirit combination skill could actually allow people to use the martial spirit true body directly. Tang Liu was a little surprised, because he didn't expect that the master would actually tell Yu Shi and Heng the method of the 7-person martial spirit combination skill. However, this is also good. Can the martial spirit true body of a top-level beast martial spirit, the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex, make the 8th person of the Spirit Hall show some strength? The students of the Spirit Hall were also horrified and a little panicked when they saw the huge blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex appear. However, Hulina and Ziyu soon used the martial spirit fusion skill. The role of the demon charm was a little useless in the current situation, so they chose to use the powerful amplification effect of the martial spirit fusion skill to let Hulina control Xiandao with all her strength. Hulina first launched her soul skills on the 7 students behind the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex, trying to control them to break Yu Xianheng's martial soul body. However, at the same time as she launched her soul skills, the female soul emperor who had been standing not far from Yu Lingling also took action. The 6 soul rings on her body lit up from top to bottom, and then her eyes spurted out a rich golden light. The invisible mental power wrapped up all the students of Xiandao and protected them firmly. Hulina's mental power also spread over at this time and collided with the mental power of the female soul emperor. The mental power of the female soul emperor immediately shrank inward a lot, and blood instantly appeared on her mouth and nose, proving that she was still slightly at a disadvantage in this battle of mental power. But fortunately, she still persisted. Yao Mei's expression became a little ugly, so she turned the control target to Yu Xianheng's martial soul body. But this time, they were the ones who suffered the backlash. Because now Yu Xianheng not only gathers the soul power of the 7 Xiandao students including himself, but also includes all the mental power of the 7 of them. Although the martial soul combination skills are not as complete as the martial soul fusion skills, they are equivalent to the fusion of the soul power and mental power of all the combination objects. What's more, they are now a 7-person martial soul combination skill, while Hulina and Ziyu are only 2-person martial soul fusion skills. Therefore, Xiandao is not at a disadvantage in this regard. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190, The competition system has been changed again. Then, with a loud dragon roar, the huge wings on the back of the giant blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex flapped, and countless blue-purple electric lights suddenly spread out. The next moment, surrounded by these blue-purple electric lights, the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex rushed towards the students of the Spirit Hall. The first to bear the brunt was Yao Mei in the front. The main control of the martial soul fusion skill instantly switched to Ziyu, because his soul skills were more suitable for attack and defense. But the defense he built only lasted for about a second in front of the huge blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex. The next moment, Yao Mei was transformed into Ziyu and Hulina again in the countless terrifying electric lights. The blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex continued to sprint forward and knock the two away. Then, the last Soul King, Yan, was also knocked away. Then, the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex swung its tail and swept all the remaining Soul Masters of the Spirit Hall out of the competition stage. At the same time, its 2 huge dragon claws also grabbed Hulina, Ziyu, and Yan respectively. After throwing the 3 people out of the competition stage, the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex let out an excited roar, and then rushed towards the 8th person standing at the end. Countless blue-purple electric lights were like countless winding swords, surrounding the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex, and with a dazzling light and explosion, it rushed towards the 8th person without hesitation. The electric light hit the 8th person before the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex. But nothing happened. Then, the huge dragon head of the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex also arrived. At this time, the man raised his right hand. The palm exposed outside looked extremely pale under the illumination of countless electric lights. But with such a palm, he casually grabbed one of the dragon horns of the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex. He didn't seem to use any force. But the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex stopped in midair and couldn't move forward. So the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex immediately swung its dragon tail. But at the moment when it just moved, the man's palm gently broke. So, the dragon's horn broke. The next moment, he retracted his palm, turned it lightly, and gently patted the forehead of the dragon head covered with scales. The huge blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex on the field disappeared. Only the unconscious Xiandao students were left. At this moment, there were only 2 people left on the field. The other one was the female Soul Emperor. But the next moment, the 8th person's head tilted slightly, and the eyes in the dark under the hood looked at her. So the female Soul Emperor rolled her eyes and fell to the ground, unconscious like the other students of Xiandao. The referee announced the victory of Wuhan Hall. Tang Liu also said solemnly at this time, Brother, the rest of the spirit hall can only rely on you." Tang San was stunned for a moment, then said, "What did you see?" Tang Liu replied, "In fact, I haven't seen anything about him. But he is stronger than me, so I must do my best to contain him." "Then you can't help us." "Yes, so in the end it is equivalent to the 7 of you fighting against the 7 people from the spirit hall." Tang San smiled slightly, and put his palm on Tang Liu's shoulder. "Don't worry about us. Just protect yourself and delay him as much as possible." "Yes, so, in the end it will still be played out like the original plot. Is this human interference, or an inevitable result? Or, is this the ability to correct the world line? If everything is destined, then he doesn't have to worry at all. The only thing to worry about is that everything is man-made. His appearance has already disrupted the direction of this world. But now, there is still a force pulling everything back to the original line. If this is really man-made, then the person who intends to pull the world line back to its original track, why did he know that the world line he wanted was the original world line? Unless that person was like himself. He knew everything about this world from the beginning. He was like himself. He was a time traveler. 2 days later, the semifinals ended successfully. The final 4 teams were Shrek Academy, Wuhan Hall Advanced Soul Master Academy, a Xingluo Empire Advanced Soul Master Academy, and a Xiandao Academy. After the semifinals, it was the semifinals. One team will be eliminated in the semifinals. The competition system is to first determine the opponent by drawing lots. Each team has only 1 game, a total of 2 games. The 2 winning teams will advance directly, and then the 2 losing teams will play another game, and the winning team will advance. Shrek Academy drew the Xiandao Academy, and Wuhan Hall drew the Xingluo Academy. The semifinals will end today, which means that a total of 3 games will be completed today. The first game is between Wuhan Hall and Xingluo. The 3 Soul Kings of Wuhan Hall and the mysterious 8th person did not play in the game, but won. Then it was Shrek Academy's turn. Similarly, Shrek Academy did not send Tang Liu, and after quickly defeating all opponents, it also successfully qualified. The last match was between Xingluo and Xiandao. About a quarter of an hour later, the battle ended, and the team from Xingluo qualified. After the 3 qualified teams were announced, the elders of the Spirit Hall announced that the finals would be held the day after tomorrow, and the Pope would come to watch in person. Soon after, the 3 teams received another message. After consultations between the Pope of the Spirit Hall and the elders, in order to make the finals of this year's All-Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Competition more challenging, the final format of the finals has been changed. First, the 3 teams that qualify from the semifinals will draw lots the day after tomorrow to select 1 team to enter the finals with a bye. The remaining 2 teams that did not receive a bye will have an individual elimination match to determine the qualifying team. The qualifying teams will compete with the bye teams in the finals. The finals will be held in 3 rounds, individual elimination, 2-2-3 tactics, and 8-man team competition. The winner of each round will receive 1 point, and the team that first receives 2 points wins. The order of the 3 rounds will be determined by drawing lots. In addition, 1/8 person from each team in the 2-2-3 tactics is not allowed to appear. In the individual elimination match, both sides can only select 7 people from their own teams to compete. The above is the latest news from the Spirit Hall, after the master who is responsible for conveying the news to the students finished speaking. He took a sip of the tea at hand. The students looked at each other, and then Tang San asked, "Teacher, what is the 223 fighting method?" The master answered him, "It means dividing the 7 of you into 3 groups. The first 2 groups have only 2 people, and the last group has 3 people. Then they will fight against the opponent's group. There are 3 games in total. No matter whether you win or lose in each game, you must change to the next group to play in the next game. Then, the team that wins 2 games first wins the victory." Chapter 191 Before the Finals. Dai Mubei frowned. "In that case, aren't we at a disadvantage? Xiao Liu can't play, Xiao and Rongrong can't fight, and the opponent has 3 Soul Kings. Unless their 3 Soul Kings play at the same time in the final 3-on-3, the master nodded slightly. "Indeed, the 223 tactics is not an advantage for you. In order to ensure victory, the Spirit Hall will definitely distribute their 3 Soul Kings into 3 games. Because, if they choose to let the 3 Soul Kings play at the same time in the final 3-on-3, then in the first 2 games of 2-on-2, even if we send 1 to assist and 1 to attack, we still have a great chance of winning. But after they defeated the Soul King, with 2 assistants, the first 2 rounds of the battle were undoubtedly extremely disadvantageous to us. After all, none of you 7 has reached the level of Soul King, and the gap in soul power is difficult to make up. So I recommend that you give up the 223 strategy and focus all your energy on the individual elimination battle and the 8-man team battle. In addition, you should also know that there is no rest time between the 3 rounds of competition. The second round will start immediately after the end of one round, so you must control your own soul power well, otherwise it will be easy to overdraw soul power in the following games. Don't worry about this, my Haolan recovery can solve everyone's soul power problem, Tang Liu said at this time. The master nodded. Well, but the final 8-man team competition still depends on you to contain the 8th person of the Spirit Hall, so you also have to pay attention to your own soul power and don't consume too much. Finally, although the rules say that the team that gets 2 points first wins, you should also be careful about the individual elimination battles, because every player who plays can continue to challenge the opponent's next student as long as they don't admit defeat, so it is possible that you will all be defeated by the opponent's 3 Soul Kings. Tang San said, in other words, we must defeat the 3 Soul Kings in the individual battle. If Liu can play, there is no problem, but if the opponent also sends their 8th person, and Liu also loses, Liu clenched his fists, then we can only rely on us to defeat the 3 Soul Kings. The master nodded. This is difficult, and Oscar and Ningrongrong can't play in the individual elimination battle, so only Mu Jing and Talon can make up. In this way, once the worst situation comes, we are still completely at a disadvantage, because the opponent is all Soul Zong or above, and we still have Soul Lord. The atmosphere among the crowd was completely solemn for a moment. Seeing this, the master smiled and said, children, in fact, you have come this far, which is beyond my expectation. I have to say that I am very proud of you. Even if you lose this last game, I still think you are the best. Because you are still young. If you are given some more time, then the championship of this competition will definitely be yours. It's just a failure, don't worry too much. Everyone looked at each other and didn't speak. Ningrongrong said, Master, listening to you, why does it seem like we have already lost? Oscar immediately agreed, yes, we haven't even competed yet. Who knows what the result will be? No one else spoke, but they all looked at the master with burning eyes. Looking at their high-spirited looks, the master couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help laughing. He felt that in a few years, Douluo continent would definitely be the world of these children. Tang Liu glanced at the people around him, then quietly walked to Mu Jing and said, Mu Jing, I have a task for you. Mu Jing was stunned for a moment and said, what? In the match the day after tomorrow, if we don't have a bye, then in the individual elimination match against the Xingluo Soul Master Academy, I hope you can beat 7 by yourself. Mu Jing couldn't help but frown and said, but that academy also has 4 Soul Masters. I can only eliminate 4 of them at most, and then my soul power will probably be exhausted, Tang Liu, so you have to try even more. If you succeed, then we can at least win the match against the Spirit Hall's 223 later. Mu Jing still frowned. How do you know that the Spirit Hall will definitely have a bye, and not the Xingluo Academy? Tang Liu sneered. The Spirit Hall Advanced Soul Master Academy will definitely have a bye, because this is the headquarters of the Spirit Hall. Of our 3 teams, they certainly want their own team to win the most. You mean, behind the scenes manipulation? Of course, as long as the Spirit Hall can win 100%, what does behind the scenes manipulation matter? Look, even the competition system has been changed twice in a row. Mu Jing finally nodded, I'll try my best. But isn't it more likely that Tang San will defeat 7 enemies alone? Why not let him come? Tang Liu shook his head. My brother is still far from a breakthrough, but you are closer. A question mark appeared on the face of the straightforward Mu Jing. Huh? Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, it is the day of the finals. In the morning, the individual elimination matches of the 2 teams that did not receive a bye will be held, and the finals will begin in the afternoon. In today's game, the team that did not receive a bye in the morning will not be allowed to watch the game. The only people who can watch the game are other people from the 2 participating academies, the elders of the Spirit Hall, and the Pope. However, after the draw, the team that received the bye was the Spirit Hall, so it didn't matter whether they watched the game or not, since most of the people here were from the Spirit Hall. Once these people knew about it, it was equivalent to the people from the Spirit Hall team knowing about it. Soon, the game started. Shrek sent out Mujing first. The opposite Xingluo Soul Master Academy sent out their first Soul Sect Master. Even if the team that can get to this point is not as good as the seeded team, its overall strength is at least to the level of the Divine Wind Academy. Obviously, the opponent did not think that they could defeat Shrek, but they did not want their academy to lose too badly, so although they sent out a Soul Sect Master in the first game, it was not the strongest one among their Soul Sect Masters. The first player on the other side had an Ice Elemental Spirit. Although elemental spirits are not top-tier spirits, they are all very strong. But Mujing not only has a top-tier spirit, but can also control the ice element. So this match turned into a contest of ice control abilities on both sides. Without any surprise, Mujing was better. The second player on the other side was still a Soul Sect member. And whose spirit was also a typical control spirit, a rope. But Mujing had the ability of the fire element, which just happened to restrain him. So it didn't take much effort for Mujing to win the second victory. This is our last day of double updates. Because it should be available tomorrow. I originally wanted to release it on August 11th, but before that day I saw a comment saying that I was too good to be charged, shy, so I delayed it. Finally, my friends who are following the book, it's still a long time before the end, but Dao Yi has basically written more than half of what he planned to write. Let's talk about the mini-theater. The small dramas you have seen before are all the ideas that flashed through my mind when I was typing. Some of them were directly the initial ideas but were later deleted, so I wrote them into small dramas for you to watch. Therefore, small dramas are not available every day. It depends on whether there is suitable content in the articles I write to give you a small show. That's it, see you tomorrow. Advance notice, surprise tomorrow. Chapter 192, Remarks on the Release. No way. Let's not do these empty words, mainly because why would I, a jerk, write a comment? Let's just talk about the updates after the book is put on the shelves. First, tonight at 8 o'clock sharp, see you for 5 consecutive updates, and by the way, I'm asking for a wave of first orders here. Second, from the day of the book's launch, today, until next Friday, 8.21, this book will have 5 consecutive updates every day. Third, after next Friday, 8.21, there will be 3 stable updates every day, and extra updates from time to time. As for rewards and extra updates, I don't think I deserve the 4th one. Well, there is no one for now. If I remember, I will explain it later. That's it, see you at 8 o'clock in the evening. This chapter will be deleted around 8 to 10 o'clock tomorrow night. I plan to write Tang Liu's personal information page, so I won't delete it. Chapter 193, A Sharp Sword is Forged from Grinding. The third student sent by the opponent was a strong attacking spirit master. In the end, Mujing relied on her control skills to exhaust his spirit power to win. But at this time, her own spirit power was less than 1/3. With only this last bit of spirit power, she really had no idea that she could deal with the opponent's last spirit master. However, since Tang Liu said she could do it, then she would try her best. Silently retreating to the edge of the competition venue, Mujing watched her fourth opponent walk onto the competition stage and then also stand on the edge. Not long after, the referee announced the start of the game. Her opponent immediately rushed towards him, and then, in the process of rushing forward, 4 circles of spirit rings, 2 yellow and 2 purple, also rose from under his feet. At the same time, a snow-white longsword appeared in his hand. When the distance between the two was less than 3 meters, the first spirit ring of the student lit up. The snow-white longsword in his hand made a crisp buzzing sound, and then the tip of the sword sprayed out a pure white sword light more than a foot long. The next moment, he raised the sword and stabbed it forward, and the long sword with a sharp oar went towards Mujing's neck. Mujing tapped the ground with her toes, leaned back, and dodged the student's sword stab by bending down. Then, before he could retract his sword, she raised her leg and kicked up, hitting the snow-white blade of the long sword with her toes, kicking it up a distance. Mujing also followed this force, and her body turned a circle in the air. When she faced the student again, she gently swung the 7-star plum branch in front of her. Her own first soul ring also lit up at this time, and then a large piece of ice and snow swept towards the student. Because the distance was very close, the student had no time to dodge, so he had to raise his sword horizontally in front of him, and then the second soul ring lit up. A layer of thick flames instantly burned on the snow-white sword body, melting and disintegrating all the ice and snow that rushed in front of him. The second soul skill, sword fire. But his sword was not a large heavy sword, so even if he used the soul skill sword fire, it could only protect part of his body. So the next moment, he swung his sword, and the sword fire on the sword formed a dense wall of fire around him, isolating all the ice and snow around him. Seeing this, Mu Jing no longer used the ice and snow elements to attack, and the second soul ring that could control fire also lit up. Mu Jing pinched her 7-star plum branch, and then aimed the tip of the branch at the sword fire around the student. The next moment, the student's sword fire was attracted by the 7-star plum, all left his sword, and gathered in front of the 7-star plum branch to form a small fireball. As the flames increased, the color of this small fireball was constantly changing, from the initial red to the current orange-red, and the size was also much smaller than at the beginning. At this time, Mu Jing waved the 7-star plum branch in her hand again, and the orange-red fireball rushed towards the student at a high speed with high temperature. Seeing this, the student immediately retreated and raised the sword in his hand above his head. The moment the fireball entered his attack range, the third soul ring lit up and the sword slashed down rapidly. The white sword light flashed, and the fireball exploded. The strong air wave made Mu Jing in the distance retreat 2 steps. But the student then rushed out of the firelight, ignoring the impact of the explosion, and rushed towards her again with his sword. Mu Jing felt a little soul power left in her body, and then released her second soul skill, plum blossoms like flowing fire. Countless plum blossoms stained with flames formed a line of fire, which was like a spirit snake entwined towards the student. But the next moment the line of fire was wrapped around him, it broke, and then turned into a stream of light and dissipated. Although Mu Jing's second soul skill was broken at the first encounter, the student's forward figure still paused. Mu Jing's blossoming like a flowing fire not only has a binding effect, but can also interrupt the soul skills that the bound target is using. Now the student's figure suddenly paused, proving that he must have been using some soul skills just now, otherwise he would not have been unaffected by the impact of the previous explosion. And then, Mu Jing knew what soul skill he was using. After the pause, the student used the soul skill again, and the fourth soul ring on his body lit up. Several sword lights flew out from the long sword in his hand, and after circling around his body for a few weeks, they merged into his body. Then, he raised the sword again and rushed towards Mu Jing. The fourth soul skill, Sword Body. Turning the body into a sword, it is immune to control when activated, and it greatly improves its own attributes in all aspects. After only a few steps, he approached Mu Jing again, raised the long sword above his head again with his right hand, and then slashed it down suddenly. At the same time, his third soul ring also lit up. The third soul skill, Sword Slash. The bright and sharp sword light came to Mu Jing in the blink of an eye. In a hurry, Mu Jing only had time to form a water curtain in front of her, trying to resist the sword light. At the same time, she also controlled the wind element to surround her body, increasing her speed and accelerating her retreat. But her water curtain did not delay her for much time, because the sharp sword light directly cut the water curtain into 2 pieces. At this time, Mu Jing had not run far, so she was still in danger. Her pupils shrank sharply, and she immediately wanted to form a defense in front of her again. However, her soul power was not enough. The battlefield changed rapidly, and in just a short while, the sword light caught up. Mu Jing twisted her body as much as possible, trying her best not to be hit by the sword light. Obviously, the speed of the sword light was faster than her. She was finally hit by the sword light. Although she tried her best to dodge, the sword light only hit her calf. But the scar almost crossed her entire calf, and the severe pain made her fall to the ground immediately, and she temporarily lost her ability to move. Blood was still flowing out, and soon it dripped onto the ground. The student slowly walked over, looked at Mu Jing and said, "Give up, you have exhausted your soul power. And you need treatment." Mu Jing didn't look at him, she kept staring at the 7-star plum that fell beside her. She was usually a person with almost no emotions. In her mind, in her heart, she didn't know when it started, there was only one thought, which was also her goal. To get a qualification. At first, she just didn't accept the decision of the spirit hall, and wanted to get the qualification to get his help from that person. Chapter 194 The fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. After that, time passed. Until now, she couldn't figure out what qualification she had been working so hard for. She seemed to have lost too much for that qualification that she couldn't explain. She was not even afraid to kill those who came to take their lives. After that, there were no more ups and downs in her heart. It seemed that everything was light. Only when it came to that qualification, there would be a slight fluctuation. But it was still very light. Just like a drop of inconspicuous water falling into a calm lake. It can stir up a small ripple. But in the end, it will be assimilated by the calm lake. Finally, it returns to calm. She looked at the 4 white flowers on her martial soul. Then she remembered the story that the man told her while sitting under the plum tree. He said that in their place, plum blossoms are a symbol of tenacity. Even if they are born in bitter cold, they will bloom with a strong and charming fragrance. The cold winter, ice and snow, and cold wind are extremely harsh for living things. But they can only make the plum blossoms bloom more beautifully on the branches. She listened very seriously at the time. Because her own martial spirit is plum blossom. Coincidentally, the plum tree also grows in the bitter cold land of the Arctic icefield. Although it is also the gathering place of the 3 soul beasts in Douluo continent, due to its extremely harsh environment, the number of soul beasts that can survive there is actually very small. But there, he and she both encountered a plum tree. The tree was in the flying snow, and the bare branches were vigorous. Some of them were still hanging with icicles. But there was only one branch. On it, there were small white flowers. The flowers were small and seemed a little inconspicuous compared to the gorgeous large flowers in other places. But in that place where there were only ice, snow and dead branches, it was these inconspicuous little flowers. It became an amazing landscape in that monotonous world. It was even so beautiful that it was a little shocking. Because it was the beauty of life. Mu Jing looked at the student in front of her. It seemed that the fierceness of not accepting it before came out again. She gritted her teeth and whispered, "It's still early." The branches of the 7-star plum tree on the ground suddenly flew up, and the 4 plum blossoms on them fell off the branches, emitting 4 kinds of light, blue, red, yellow, and green, surrounding the branches. The next moment, a bright beam of light mixed with 4 lights was released from the branches of the 7-star plum tree, and in the blink of an eye it arrived in front of the student. The student's pupils shrank, but he only had time to raise his sword to block in front of him. The beam of light hit his sword with a bang, and directly blasted him away. He was carried into the air by the beam, far away from Mu Jing, and then fell down. But the 4-color beam of light flew far away until it disappeared into the sky. Mu Jing stretched out her palm and gently stroked the wound on her calf, and the wound that was still bleeding was instantly frozen. Then, she supported herself on the ground with both hands, stood up with difficulty, and looked at the enemy students opposite who was also a little embarrassed. Obviously, he did not expect that Mu Jing could still launch such an attack when her soul power was exhausted. But so what? Anyway, now she is already at the end of her strength. The 4 soul rings on his body lit up one after another. The sword body possessed, the sword light and sword fire were all attached to the sword, and at the same time, the sword was charged with power, and it rushed forward again at an unprecedented speed. Mu Jing looked at the 4 small plum blossoms emitting different colors of light again. The 7-star plum tree only blooms once in its life, and only one branch can bloom. However, once the plum blossom blooms, it will never wither until the day when the plum tree's life ends. The flowering branch of the 7-star plum tree can only bloom 7 plum blossoms. But these 7 plum blossoms belong to the plum tree. One plum blossom represents its cultivation for several years. Therefore, the person who picked a plum blossom and took it is equivalent to gaining the cultivation of the plum tree. So the person ate 4 plum blossoms, leaving her 3. The 3 plum blossoms also made her cultivation advance by leaps and bounds. She broke through to the soul sect when she was just 14 years old. Until now, she is level 47. Only 3 levels away from level 50. After that, as long as she gets another soul ring, she will be able to break through to the level of Soul King. What if she ate all 7 plum blossoms of the 7-star plum tree at that time? If that were the case, what would she have achieved now? He told her that she could only withstand the energy of 3 plum blossoms at that time. But now it turns out that the last 4 plum blossoms have always been here. The plum blossom emitting blue light flew carefully in front of Mu Jing, and then turned into a drop of pure blue dew, quietly blending into her brow. She took a step forward. The scar on her foot disappeared. The student was closer to her. The small flower emitting red light also came in front of her, turning into a flame and slowly blending into her brow. She took another step. The momentum on her body increased rapidly. After that, The yellow light and the last plum blossom emitting green light also turned into streams of light and sank into her brows one after another. She took the last step, her feet level. The student was only 5 meters away from her. Mu Jing spread out her right palm and let the bald branch fall into her palm. The branch was brown and black, crooked and a little ugly. But every bend was as vigorous and vivid as the strokes of a regular script. The student was only 3 meters away from her. He had been accumulating strength for so long. Since the beginning of the competition, the strongest sword strike, which fell with a long sword raised above his head, turned into a dazzling sword light and quickly slashed towards Mu Jing. Mu Jing's eyes, the same color as the branches of the 7-star plum, stared at the sword light that seemed to be able to cut through everything. Then, she also waved the branch in her hand. After losing the flower, the branch looked less beautiful, but instead had a fierce momentum. It was like a rapier with 7 twists and turns. But this rapier spewed out a terrifying tornado of flames. The flames seemed to cover the sky and the sun, completely swallowing up the sword light. The sword light was still sharp, tearing a hole in the flames. But the next moment, this overwhelming flame was incredible. In an instant, it all turned into ice and snow that scattered downwards. The sword light tore the ice and snow again. So the ice and snow turned into a gurgling river in an instant. Then the river water spread to the feet of the student. In another instant, it all turned into huge stone pillars, pushing him all the way out. At the same time, the invincible sword light also came in front of Mu Jing. Mu Jing just calmly stepped to the side and turned her body sideways, so the sword light quickly passed in front of her, bringing up a few strands of her long brown hair floating in front of her. Chapter 195 Pope, Bibi Dong. She gently threw the branch up with her right hand, and then the branch flipped lightly in the air for a few weeks and fell into her left hand. She accurately grasped the branch and swung it again. The tip of the branch just hit the sword light that passed in front of her. So the sword light suddenly cracked. Then it exploded into tiny streams of light. At the same time, the student was also pushed down from the competition area by the stone pillars that appeared along the way, and thus lost the game. Mu Jing looked over and found that the other team's leader was also looking at her and nodded to her gently. Then, she was a little surprised to see the blue light inadvertently revealed in the other's eyes. The next moment, the leader shouted to the referee that they admitted defeat. Mu Jing finally understood Tang Liu's intention. With the help of 4 soul masters, she was pushed to level 50. In any case, the other party would send out 4 soul masters at the beginning, and would choose to give up after the 4 soul masters were defeated. Because Tang Liu had already controlled their leader. And it seems that all their students. But wasn't he practicing? How did he get here? Except for Tang Liu himself, no one else knows all this yet. Anyway, Mu Jing has reached level 50 now. Even if she encounters a spirit king from the spirit hall in the afternoon, she can handle it with ease. Because the difference between her and them is only 1 spirit ring. But now, she can completely ignore this gap. Time soon came to the afternoon. The participating students of Shrek gathered together, looking at the spirit hall opposite, and then prepared to draw lots. However, the draw was about to begin, but Tang Liu was still nowhere to be seen. But the people of Shrek were not anxious, and everyone's expression was calm. Just when the referee announced that the draw was about to begin, a blue light flashed, and Tang Liu appeared in the middle of the Shrek team. As soon as he appeared, he immediately said, "I'm not late, am I?" Tang San answered him, "You're just in time." Tang Liu breathed a sigh of relief. "Fortunately, I made it." Oscar asked him, "Xiao Liu, where have you been? I didn't see you come to watch the game this morning." Tang Liu smiled and said, "Nothing, reviewing before the exam." "Oscar, they didn't have more time to communicate, because the referee's voice rang again at this time. His Majesty the Pope has arrived." For a moment, everyone present, whether it was the students who were about to participate in the competition, or the teachers and people watching the game in the viewing area, or the elders and soul masters affiliated with the spirit hall, all cast their eyes in one direction at the same time. There was a viewing platform set up by the revolving door for the Pope. The current Pope of the spirit hall also appeared on the high platform at this time. The moment the people from the spirit hall's advanced soul master academy saw the Pope, they all knelt on one knee, and looked at the Pope on the high platform with fiery eyes. There was no other reason, just because the Pope's figure was too dazzling. Nearly perfect face and figure. Even though she is already over 50 years old, the years seem to have left no trace on her face. She is dressed in a luxurious robe and a 9-curved purple gold crown. She is noble and majestic, beautiful and domineering. In addition to the students of the Spirit Hall Academy, those who belong to the Spirit Hall in the viewing area also knelt on one knee at the same time to show their respect for the Pope. Therefore, among those who chose to kneel, the people of Shrek Academy who stood indifferently seemed extremely abrupt and annoying. On the high platform, a red-clothed elder standing behind Pope Bibidong immediately shouted angrily, "How dare you? You are meeting the Pope, why don't you kneel?" The Shrek people still had the same calm expression as before, and ignored him. The red-clothed elder's face was extremely ugly. Just as he was about to scold again, he was stopped by Bibidong in front of him. Bibidong gently waved the purple gold scepter in her hand to stop him, and then said, "For spirit masters who do not belong to my spirit hall, there is no rule that they must kneel before me. Shrek Academy's actions are reasonable and you don't have to blame them." The red-clothed elder then gave up the little thought in his heart. Then, more people appeared on the platform one after another, and they were all known to everyone in Shrek. First, there were Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo standing on both sides of Bibidong. After that, it was one of the two titled Douluos of the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile Sect, Sword Douluo Chengxin, who was known as the strongest attack in the world. Sword Douluo did not sit next to Ning Fengzi as usual, but sat on the right rear side of Bibidong. Because now his identity is a guest elder of the Spirit Hall, not a guardian elder of the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile Sect. After everyone was seated, Bibidong continued to speak. "The fact that your two teams have come this far has proved that your strength is outstanding among soul masters of the same age. Every session of the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition is not only to select the strongest Soul Master Academy, but also to select the most talented Soul Master. There is no doubt that all of you present here have such talent. With this talent, coupled with your unremitting efforts, you are qualified to participate in today's finals. In this final, I hope you can fully demonstrate your strength, do your best to compete for the final championship, and let the world see your fighting spirit." The change in the competition system of this competition is unprecedented in the past, and it is also a precedent in the competition so far. After discussion among the elders of the Spirit Hall, this new competition system was established. The new competition system tests the individual strength of each team more than before. I hope that every student on both sides of the competition can shine in the next game. The final will be divided into 3 games, individual elimination, 2-2-3 tactics, and 8-person team battle. The order of the 3 rounds of competition will be chosen by the 2 teams drawing lots. In order to ensure fairness, the order of the 2 teams drawing lots will also be determined by drawing lots. Now, please ask each team to send one person to draw lots for the order. After the Pope's voice fell, Daimyubei and Ziyu walked out of their teams at the same time and stood beside the 2 referees. After the referees saw that the 2 were ready, they threw 2 small iron balls at the same time. The 2 small iron balls spiraled into the sky. At the same time, Daimyubei and Ziyu also jumped high, and then grabbed the small iron ball respectively. After landing on the ground, the referee checked the 2 people's iron balls respectively, and then announced loudly, "Shrek Academy will draw lots first." Daimyubei and Ziyu glanced at each other, their eyes full of burning fighting spirit, and then retreated to their respective teams. Mini Theater, the original idea, chapter name, Tang Liu. I suddenly have a bold idea. A woman slowly walked out from the high platform. The first time you see her, you will feel elegant and luxurious. The second time, you will find her bright and moving. The third time, you will find that she has a kind of irresistible majesty. She has a nearly perfect face, and the years seem to have never left a trace on her, and so on. A series of descriptions, and she is the current Pope of the Spirit Hall, Bibidong. The moment she appeared, all the people belonging to the Spirit Hall knelt down on one knee at the same time. She then gently waved the scepter in her hand. "Stand up." Tang Liu looked up at the person on the high platform, who was the focus of everyone's attention. For some reason, his heart was throbbing like never before. He didn't know which nerve in his head was twitching again. He felt that he had a bold idea. "Tang Liu, I am moved. I can't avoid that bad look. Daimyubei, Liuer, what's so good about that old woman? Isn't it nice to be his Xingluo Empress?" Jin Ringsu, with a terrified face, "The person I like may fall in love with my mother. What should I do?" Tang San, Zio Liu, "No, that's the person who can be our mother. Think twice." Tang Hao, grass, a kind of plant, If Xiao Liu really brings that woman Bibi Dong to our Tang family, then wouldn't she have to call me dad? Grass, a kind of plant, why do I feel a little bit good? This was the idea during the time when we really wanted Bibi Dong to be the heroine. It will not appear in the main text. Chapter 196, Draw Lots, 2, 2, 3. After seeing them all retreat, Bibi Dong raised her hand and waved it lightly, and 3 balls of light formed by the condensation of soul power appeared in the sky. Then, she said, please ask Shrek to send representatives to draw lots. Everyone looked at each other, and then pushed Tang Liu out. Tang Liu was stunned for a second, then walked forward a few steps with a calm expression, stretched out his hand and grabbed it slightly, and a Haolan force field appeared on the middle of the 3 balls of light, wrapped it, and pulled it over. The soul power ball of light wrapped by the Haolan force field fell steadily in Tang Liu's palm. He took a look at it, and then threw it into the sky. The next moment, the soul power ball of light exploded in the air, and then formed the 5 big words 223 tactics. Tang Liu retreated back to the team, and then whispered to everyone, how is it? I did not do bad. Oscar also whispered, well, it was so cool, Ma Hongjin. The Pope must have put those light balls so high to make things difficult for us. But she certainly didn't expect Xiao Liu to be able to take it down from such a distance. Although the others didn't say anything, they all felt that Tang Liu had just made a big splash for Shrek. Shoo. However, they all looked a little solemn when they drew the 223 battle method. Because this was the most disadvantageous round for them. Then Bibi Dong looked at the Wuhan Hall Academy and said loudly, please ask the Wuhan Hall Advanced Soul Master Academy to send a representative to draw lots. Everyone at Shrek looked at the Wuhan Hall Academy at the same time, wondering who they would send to draw lots. Then they saw that the 8th person who had been wearing a black robe was pushed out by the other people from the Wuhan Hall Academy. It was indeed him. I just don't know how he will get the number in the air. The black-robed man who was suddenly pushed out seemed a little helpless, but he still walked to the front of the platform at a fast pace. Just when everyone was waiting for how he was going to take the lot, he spoke. This was also the first time that the Shrek people heard his voice. His voice was a little hoarse, but not unpleasant, and on the contrary, it had a magnetic flavor. He just said, I choose the one on the left. The Shrek people, others on the field, as if afraid that Bibi Dong would make a wrong choice, he pointed with his finger. Yes, that's it. The corners of Bibi Dong's lips twitched slightly, and then he used his soul power to knock the lot chosen by that person away. Finally, the ball of light exploded in the air, forming the 5 big words 8-person team competition. The man then walked back to the team of the Spirit Hall. On Shrek's side, Oscar immediately complained expressionlessly, what the hell does he mean? So it's okay to just tell the Pope directly, Tang Liu, am I embarrassed? Tang San, don't panic, brother. At least you were much more handsome than him when you drew lots. Daimyo Bei, that's right. Xiao Liu, as one of the faces of our Shrek, as long as you are handsome, then our Shrek will not be embarrassed. Ningrongrong also complained expressionlessly, hey, you have missed the point. Shouldn't we care about the order of the competition, Mu Jing? Also, we didn't know that we could tell the Pope directly and chose the way of drawing lots just now, but the Spirit Hall knew it, so that person didn't reveal anything at all. Xiao Wu, I also want to say, shouldn't the focus be on the competition and the opponent's strength? Why did you focus on the issue of whether he is handsome or not? Zhu's Huking, men, boys, Ningrongrong, and don't you think that the guy's performance just now was embarrassing? The boys who were speechless again, you can't blame them for this. In such a serious occasion, that person was embarrassed and felt so justified in being embarrassed, so they must have subconsciously thought that they were the ones who were embarrassed, and that person was doing the right thing. Tang San finally said helplessly, okay, concentrate on listening to the Pope's order of competition. Everyone stopped complaining expressionlessly. Bibi Dong said on the stage, the final order of the competition is as follows, 223 tactics, 8-person team competition, individual elimination competition. Then the referee announced, please both parties decide on the 223 tactics grouping, and the competition will officially begin in 3 minutes. Report immediately after deciding on the grouping, and it cannot be changed. Both teams returned to the waiting area and then began to discuss who should play. Tang San said, according to previous speculation, Spirit Hall should divide their 3 Soul Kings into 3 games. In other words, we will have to deal with a Soul King and a Soul Sect in the first 2 games. In the final 3-on-3 match, we will face a Soul King and 2 Soul Sects. Tang Liu supplemented him. It is possible that they will send 2 Soul Kings to the final 3-on-3 match, because they have to guard against our Spirit Fusion technique. Tang San nodded, but in any case, Boss Dai and Zhu Qing must be grouped in the same group. Either participate in the first 2 2-on-2 matches and rely on the Spirit Fusion technique to guarantee victory, or participate in the final 3-on-3. If the opponent still has only 1 Soul King, then we will still win. If they send out 2 Soul Kings, with the same Spirit Fusion technique, our chances of winning are not high, but still possible. However, if they do not send out 2 Soul Kings who can use the Spirit Fusion technique, and we win another match with the Spirit Fusion technique, then we will face the situation of missing a trump card in the next team battle. Tang Liu supplemented again. Tang San, but the risk of individual elimination matches is greater, so let's do this for the 2-2-3 battle grouping. Xiao Wu, you and Mu Jing will be in a group to complete a 2-on-2 match. With Mu Jing here, if you happen to meet Yan, then Mu Jing can completely defeat him, and winning this match is not a problem. But if you meet Tulina, then it will be difficult for you to win, because neither of you has a strong ability to resist mental control, Tang Liu said. Tang San, Xiao Liu can't participate in the battle. Among the few of us, I am the only one who is not afraid of Hulina's control, so I have the greatest chance of winning when I face her, Tang Liu, but we don't know which match they will play in, so it's difficult to deploy troops in a targeted manner. As the captain, Dai Mubei pondered for a while and made a decision. Then the first match will be played by me and Zhu Qing, and strive to win. The second match will be played by Mu Jing and Xiao Wu. For the third match, Xiao San, you will take Fatty and Rongrong to the stage. After he said this, Tang San and Tang Liu understood. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197, The First Battle. Tang San said, "Are you planning to bet your chances of winning on the first 2 games?" Tang Liu nodded. "We are not at an advantage to begin with, so the way to deal with the greatest chance of winning is to ensure victory in the first 2 games to the greatest extent possible." Xiao Wu asked with some confusion. "Then why don't you let Brother San play in the second round?" Tang San explained to her, "If I play in the third game, even though I have Rongrong as a support, I still have a certain chance of winning the game." Tang Liu, this is also to prevent Hulina from playing in the second game and causing you to lose the game. If Hulina doesn't play in the second round, you will definitely win with Mu Jing in the second round. After all, she is also our 8th person, and now she has reached level 50, plus your explosive power. It will be no problem to easily deal with them. Oscar said with some regret, "If I had known earlier, I should have reported Rongrong and me as the 8th person, so that Xiao Liu could play now." Tang Liu said, "The Spirit Hall is targeting us, otherwise they would not have banned only 1/8th person from playing. Wouldn't it be safer to ban them all?" Tang San smiled and said, "They are only targeting you personally. Who made you show the strength to fight against Title Douluo? The 2 changes in the competition system are just to reduce your chances of playing and prevent them from losing the game. Moreover, one of their 2 8th men is also a soul sect, and only 1/8th man is banned for this reason." Tang Liu curled his lips. "Anyway, the final victory will be ours." Tang San couldn't help but smile. "You are so confident all of a sudden. Are you confident that you can defeat the 8th man of the Spirit Hall?" Tang Liu raised his eyebrows and smiled. "I don't know if he can beat him, but he must not try to interfere with your game at all." Tang San smiled and patted his shoulder. "I don't know when I can catch up with you." Tang Liu also smiled. "Don't worry, you will catch up soon." After they finished their discussion, Dai Mubei went to report their own battle group situation. After he came back, the referee's voice also rang out, "The preparation time is up. Please enter the first round of the competition teams from both sides." After hearing this, Tang Liu patted Dai Mubei beside him and smiled. "Brother Bai, come on." Then he turned to look at Zhu Xiuqing. "Xiuqing, come on too." Dai Mubei smiled back. "Of course, we will win." Zhu Xiuqing also nodded. Xiao Wu and Ning Rongrong hugged Zhu Xiuqing respectively and whispered, "Come on." Amid the laughter of the boys and the worried eyes of the girls, Dai Mubei and Zhu Xiuqing walked onto the competition stage. Although everyone looked very relaxed and even talked and laughed, the fact that everyone knew was that they were actually unsure. If it was a team battle, It would be easy to say, they could be sure that the victory would belong to them. But the 223 tactics was their first contact after all, and they didn't know who the spirit wall would send to fight. Even if they were confident in their own strength, they couldn't help but worry about whether they would fail. If they lose the 223 tactics, and the final game has to go to the individual elimination match, then their chances of winning will become even lower. Because compared to the 223 tactics, the individual elimination match is more flexible in how to send players to fight. On Shrek's side, only Tang Liu, Mu Jing, and Tang San have a great chance of winning against the Spirit Hall's Soul King. The others are basically at a disadvantage when facing the Soul King. Not to mention, each side can only send 7 people in the individual elimination match. If Tang Liu plays in the individual elimination match, it means that a mysterious 8th person from the Spirit Hall will also play. And to deal with him, Shrek has only Tang Liu. But when Tang Liu himself is not sure whether he can defeat the mysterious 8th person, what should the other people of Shrek do when they meet him? Therefore, if Shrek wants to win the championship, it is best to win the 223 tactics and the 8-person team match. Even if the 223 tactics have a low winning rate, they still have to try their best. After Daimyubei and Zuzuking came on the field, Shrek also saw who the 2 people sent by the Spirit Hall were. There was a Soul King. His spirit was the Flame Lord Yan. Below, Tang San and Tang Liu's expressions became solemn at the same time. Since the opponent sent Yan in the first game, there might be a Soul King in each of the next 2 games, or 2 Soul Kings in the last game. If it is the former, then we have to worry about the possibility of Hulina playing in the second game. If it is the latter, then we have to worry about whether Daimyubei and Zuzuking can win this round. If they lose, in the third round, there will only be 2 combat forces, Tang San and Ma Hongjin, plus Ning Rongrong. Can they defeat the lineup of 2 Soul Kings and a Soul Sect? If they win, then for the second round, the Spirit Hall will definitely send another Soul King. As for the last Soul King, he would definitely be sent out in the third round, because if they dared to send out 2 Soul Kings to win the second round after losing a round, they would only be able to send out 3 Soul Lords in the third round, which would be equivalent to giving a victory to Shrek, and the Spirit Hall would also lose the 223 tactics, so it would not be worth the loss. In short, as long as Daimyubei and Zuzuking can win the first round, they still have a great chance of winning. Yan and the Soul Lords beside him stood at the edge of the other side of the competition venue, looking at Daimyubei and Zuzuking, who were also standing at the edge of the venue. After seeing that both sides were ready, the referee announced loudly, "The game begins." Both sides released their martial spirits at the same time, and then rushed towards each other. Yan, whose martial spirit was the Lord of Fire, suddenly expanded to 3 meters away after releasing his martial spirit, and looked even bigger than Daimyubei after using the White Tiger King Kong transformation. 2 yellow, 2 purple, 1 black, 5 circles of soul rings with the best ratio showed his strength as a Soul King. However, they are the same as Daimyubei and Zuzuking, with 1 strong attacker and 1 agile attacker. The Soul Master next to Yan is a Soul Master of the Agile Attack System. After Yan released his martial soul, he hid behind Yan, who was 3 meters tall, and the whole person completely disappeared from the side of Daimyubei and Zuzuking. In this regard, Zuzuking was the same as him, because she also shrank behind Daimyubei at the same time and hid herself. Hiding, speed and a fatal blow, this is the essence of a Soul Master of the Agile Attack System. Both sides were very fast. But in just a few breaths, Daimyubei and Yan collided with each other. Because the opponent was a Soul King, Daimyubei did not underestimate the opponent. He immediately used his first and third 2 amplification soul skills, and then punched Yan. Chapter 198, making a feint to the east and attacking in the west. Yan also used 2 soul skills, but they were the first and second soul skills. After that, his huge body was all burning with fierce flames, and he also punched Daimyubei. The 2 fists, which were completely not on the same level, collided with each other. The next moment, Daimyubei was knocked far away, but Yan did not move at all. Daimyubei was completely at a disadvantage. Zuzuking, who was hiding behind him, quickly bypassed Yan and rushed towards the Agile Attack Soul Master at the moment he launched an attack on Yan. Her speed was very fast, so fast that Daimyubei and Yan could not catch her figure with their naked eyes, and could only vaguely see a purple-black afterimage. But the Agile Attack Soul Master could see her because they were also speedsters. However, It was obvious that the Nether Spirit Cat Martial Soul was better than the Agile Attack Soul Master's Martial Soul, so Zhu Zhuking's speed was undoubtedly faster. And the speed, for Agile Attack Soul Masters, often means the size of the attack power. Since her attack power is relatively strong, there is no reason to let go of the Agile Attack Spirit Master. When the Agile Attack Spirit Master saw her rushing over, he had no intention of fighting head-on, and immediately turned around and ran away, even using his own amplification spirit skills to speed himself up. Seeing this, Zhu Zhuking also used her first spirit skill, the Netherworld Stab. In addition to giving her a very strong stabbing attack in an instant, her first spirit skill can also instantly increase her speed by a large margin, making her as fast as when Xiao Wu teleported over a short distance. Therefore, the distance between her and the Agile Attack Spirit Master not only did not shorten, but even shortened a lot. Seeing this, the Agile Attack Spirit Master was naturally very surprised. Thinking that the Pope was still watching the battle from above, he gritted his teeth and immediately turned around and rushed towards Zhu Zhuking. When he got close, he immediately released his attack spirit skills. Zhu Zhuking lightly tapped the ground with her toes, and the whole person flew to the side and easily avoided the attack of the Agile Attack Spirit Master. Then, she turned in the air nimbly and landed steadily on the ground. The next moment, she rushed towards the Soul Master again. Before he could react, she came to his side and released her second soul skill. Netherworld 100 Claws. The soul power drove her body to rotate rapidly, which increased the attack power of her claws and had the effect of continuous attack. The Soul Master had no time to dodge and had to use the attack soul skill to fight head-on. For a while, the clanging sound was endless. But soon, blood was splashed out. In a moment, the Soul Master was defeated and flew out. From the landing posture, he was obviously beaten. When he was half lying on the ground in embarrassment, he found that his body was covered with large and small wounds, some of which were still bleeding. It seemed that the blood that had splashed out before belonged to him. Zhu Zhuking stopped about 3 meters in front of him with a light cat step, looking at him without any expression on her face. The Soul Master looked at Zhu Zhuking, who was unharmed, and suddenly laughed. Zhu Zhuking frowned slightly. Then, the Soul Master said, "So what if you are stronger than me? Even if you defeat me, your teammates will still be defeated by Lord Yan. At that time, you are alone. Do you have the confidence to defeat a Soul King?" As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Zhu Zhuking in front of him immediately turned his head and looked in the direction of Daimubei. Yan directly pinched Daimubei's neck and lifted him up from the ground. Seeing this, the Soul Master was about to say something with a mocking tone, and then he saw Zhu Zhuking in front of him, who was only facing her sideways, with a slight curl of his lips. He didn't look worried at all. The Soul Master lying on the ground was stunned, and then, he suddenly had an ominous premonition in his heart. He was about to get up and run away, but at this moment he found that Zhu Zhuking, who was still 3 meters away from him, flashed in front of him, and the third soul ring lit up. The next moment, there was only a purple-black crescent moon left in his vision. The third soul ring then went out. Zhu Zhuking glanced at the remaining purple light on his claws, ignoring the Soul Master, who screamed and flew out of the competition stage. Then, the whole person suddenly disappeared from the spot, leaving only a few purple lights. At the same time, on the other side, Yan held Daimubei in his hand, looked him straight in the eyes, and said in a cold tone, "Do you think you can defeat me by yourself?" Daimubei's neck was pinched, so it was difficult for him to speak, but he still tried to force a smile and said, "If I were your age, I would definitely tear you to pieces." Yan's eyes narrowed dangerously, and just when he was about to make a move, he heard Daimubei say again, "And who told you that I only have myself?" Yan immediately sneered, "No matter how powerful your teammates are, it takes time to deal with a Soul Master. In this time, I can completely defeat you or even kill you." Daimubei still grinned and said, "Oh, then you will be disappointed." As soon as he finished speaking, his fourth soul ring lit up, white light shot up into the sky, and countless white tiger meteor showers smashed towards the two of them from the air at an unimaginable speed. Yan was a little confused. "Are you crazy? Want to die together?" As he spoke, he also prepared for defense. The fourth soul skill of a Soul Master, even if he is a Soul King, needs to be well defended before he can take it, otherwise he will be injured. Daimubei, die together? That's a nice thought. Yan's pupils suddenly shrank at this moment, because a figure suddenly rushed out from behind Daimubei. Looking carefully, who else could it be but Zhu Zhuking? But wasn't she still entangled with his teammates? Why did she appear here now? He subconsciously wanted to turn his head to look, but he heard the screams of his teammates, and suddenly, his expression became ugly. At this time, Zhu Zhuking's attack came, and a pair of sharp claws rushed towards his eyes. As a last resort, he could only shake off Dime Yubei first, and then protect his eyes with both hands. However, the expected attack did not come, because, at the moment when Zhu Zhuking's claws were about to touch him, Zhu Zhuking's whole body turned into little purple light and disappeared without a trace. But the next moment, the white tiger meteor shower fell on him. Yan roared loudly and took a step forward from the smoke and dust produced by the explosion of the white tiger meteor shower. Chapter 199 Victory. But the next moment, his huge figure flew out. Because, just a few steps away from him, a huge netherworld white tiger was waiting for him calmly, and then hied him with a tiger palm to fly. After hitting Yan, the huge netherworld white tiger jumped high again, and then did a beautiful horse-stepping turn in the air, kicking Yan completely out of the competition stage. After the netherworld white tiger landed, it turned into a stream of light and quietly dissipated, revealing the figures of Dime Yubei and Zhu Zhuking. They hugged each other and smiled at the same time. The referee then announced, the first match of the 223 battle method, Shrek Academy wins. The time of this game was not long, it could even be said to be very short. And Zhu Zhuking's contribution to ending the game so early is unquestionable. The key to everything is her fourth soul skill, the Netherworld Shadow Clone. From the beginning, she has been lurking behind Dime Yubei. And the one who rushed out to attack Yan's teammates has always been her clone. In order to fully confuse Yan, no matter how hard Dime Yubei was beaten by Yan, she never moved without authorization, but just concentrated on controlling her clones to knock Yan's teammates off the stage. Then, at the same time, she created another clone and asked it to pretend to attack Yan, so that Dime Yubei could be released. After Dime Yubei was released, they immediately used the martial soul fusion technique and eliminated Yan in one fell swoop. From beginning to end, they never thought of defeating a soul king by their own strength. However, if they used the martial soul fusion technique at the beginning, it would be possible that they would be dragged by Yan and Yan's teammates until their soul power was exhausted and they could no longer use the martial soul fusion technique, and then lose the game. Therefore, in order to ensure victory in the game, they must use the martial soul fusion technique, and they must use it unexpectedly. Now it seems that their choice is undoubtedly correct, helping them to quickly win the game, and it is undoubtedly an encouragement to the overall morale of Shrek. After walking off the stage, all the people in Shrek cheered for a while, and then cheered for Mu Jing and Xiao Wu who were about to play. Soon, the referee announced that the second round of the game was about to begin and asked the players from both teams to enter the field. Mu Jing and Xiao Wu walked up together and stood at the edge of the field. At the same time, the two girls also saw their opponents clearly. All the Shrek students looked solemn. Because the person they least wanted to meet was Hulina. Mu Jing and Xiao Wu looked at each other quickly and saw the heavy look in each other's eyes. Third brother said that Hulina's charm is produced by affecting our vision and hearing. As long as we don't see or hear, we can avoid or control to a large extent, Xiao Wu whispered to Mu Jing beside her. Mu Jing also responded to her in a low voice, it's easy not to listen, but it's hard not to see. How can we fight them if we can't hear or see? Xiao Wu, then let's just admit defeat. Mu Jing, do you want to? No, I don't want to either, Mu Jing said, and then seemed to think of something. Maybe I have a solution, but then, the main attack will depend on you. I can only help you control them by the way, Xiao Wu said. No problem, as long as you get close to Hulina, even if she is a soul king. I can kick her out of the competition stage? Mu Jing nodded and said, then it's up to me. While they were whispering here, Hulina and her teammates were also watching them quietly. Hulina is very beautiful, and at the same time, she has an extremely charming temperament. This may be related to her martial soul being a fox. At this time, her teammates whispered to her, did Shrek send these two people? I'm afraid they will be defeated by your control at the beginning of the game. Hulina chuckled and said, we will know after the game starts. However, when I control them, you will go over and knock them off the stage. Her teammate was also a girl. The girl smiled and said, I know. After looking at the two teams, the referee announced the start of the game. At this time, the four people on the field released their martial arts at the same time, but no one acted rashly, but chose to stay where they were. Then, Mu Jing and Hulina released their spirit skills almost at the same time. Xiao Wu immediately closed her eyes and covered her ears with her hands to reduce Hulina's influence on her. Mu Jing raised the 7-star plum branch in her hand and looked up at the sky. At the same time, the 4 spirit rings on her body flashed one after another. The next moment, the stage was shaking, making a rumbling sound. Then, a light drizzle began to fall from the sky, and then a strong wind blew. The whoosh sound of the wind and the rumble sound of the ground shaking mixed together, pouring into the ears of everyone on the field. Afterwards, a few white snowflakes began to slowly mix in with the raindrops falling from the sky. As time went by, these snowflakes were becoming more and more numerous and denser, almost completely blocking the line of sight. The raindrops that fell on the ground did not disappear directly, but gradually gathered together, and along with the shaking ground, they made a gurgling sound like a river. All the sounds gathered together, which could completely cover the sound of language. Xiao Wu immediately understood what Mu Jing was doing, so she rushed out immediately while the heavy snow blocked her sight. Hulina had already understood what Mu Jing was doing when the snowflakes were floating on the field, so she immediately turned her head and screamed to her teammates around her, "She is making noises and shields to block my sight and sound, go and stop her." So the girl also rushed out without hesitation. Mu Jing's body was filled with a strong soul power, and she tried her best to control the elemental riot. Then she shouted loudly, "Xiao Wu, I can only hold on for 8 seconds at most." Xiao Wu gritted her teeth and shouted loudly, "Enough." At the same time, she began to count silently in her heart. The 3rd soul ring lit up and teleported. Relying on the memory of Hulina and the others' previous position, Xiao Wu chose to teleport to a place not far from them, and then just met the girl who rushed in. Shrek has studied the information of all the people in the Spirit Hall, and the Spirit Hall has naturally studied every student of Shrek, so they also know how strong Xiao Wu's explosive power is when she gets close. The girl was shocked and immediately turned around and rushed back to Fang Xin from where she came. Xiao Wu did not stop, nor did she choose to chase her, but used the 3rd soul skill again. This time, she teleported directly to Hulina. At the same time, the 4th soul ring lit up. Chapter 200 Win Again. Invincible Golden Body. The golden light tightly wrapped Xiao Wu's whole body, and at the same time, it also blocked Hulina's charm control. When Hulina saw Xiao Wu's appearance, her expression changed drastically, and it was even more so when she found that her charm didn't work. But as the golden generation of the Spirit Hall, she still had some adaptability. She immediately launched her attack soul skills at Xiao Wu, and at the same time, her body quickly dodged to the side. How could Xiao Wu miss such a good opportunity? Before Hulina's attack came, she teleported behind Hulina again, and then stepped on Hulina's waist with one foot. At the same time, she gently shook her head, and the black scorpion braid lightly wrapped around Hulina's neck. Hulina immediately fell forward under Xiao Wu's kick, but because of the pull of the scorpion braid, her upper body did not fall directly. After a push and a pull, Hulina fell to the ground in a lying position. But Xiao Wu's attack was far from over, because she only had less than 3 seconds left, and her invincible golden body would end in 1 second. So, Xiao Wu tapped the ground with her toes, and the whole person leaped up, her delicate body tumbling in the air, and then came to the other side of Hulina. Under the pull of the scorpion braid, Hulina was thrown into the air, completely unable to resist. Xiao Wu then teleported again to the same level as Hulina, and took advantage of the last second of the invincible golden body to launch her first soul skill, Waist Bow, on Hulina. Her slender legs wrapped around Hulina's neck, and then violently ejected her out of the range of the competition venue. At this time, Hulina could be considered out. So Xiao Wu teleported back to Mu Jing again, and said in great surprise, "Success." Mu Jing also breathed a sigh of relief, and then stopped controlling the elemental riot, so the rain, snowflakes, and vibrations on the competition stage disappeared. Then, they also saw the remaining girl on the field. So Mu Jing immediately used the remaining soul power in her body to raise a stone prison around her body, trapping her inside. While she was still not out of the stone prison, Xiao Wu teleported over. The moment Xiao Wu came to the girl's side, Mu Jing also released the stone prison, and then Xiao Wu sent the girl off the stage with a set of soft skills. Seeing this, the referee immediately announced, the second round of the 223 battle method, Shrek Academy 1. Shrek Academy won 2 games and won the 223 battle method victory. After hearing the referee's announcement of victory, Mu Jing finally couldn't help the weakness of the soul power in her body, and her body was about to fall to the ground. Xiao Wu immediately came to Mu Jing's side and helped her walk off the stage. The Shrek students in the audience were very excited because they didn't expect this victory. Use other sounds to block Hulina's voice. Use heavy snow to block Hulina's eyes, so as to avoid Hulina's charm control. Mu Jing, this is a good idea, Oscar laughed. Tang Liu gave Mu Jing a Howlin' restore, restoring her to her peak state, and said with a smile, "Fortunately, you are now level 50, otherwise you really can't stand this kind of scene. However, you know how to use heavy snow to block the line of sight. Wouldn't it be better to trap Hulina in a cage surrounded by earth walls?" Mu Jing's eyes lit up, "Then fill it with water directly. And she can't make a sound when she can't breathe." Tang Liu nodded, "That's the reason. However, the cage you make must be strong enough, otherwise it won't be able to trap her at all. I will definitely try it if I have a chance." Mu Jing seemed to be impatient. "There will always be a chance in the future." Tang Liu looked at the spirit hall opposite, "But now we have to go to the team battle." Unlike the joyful atmosphere on Shrek's side, the spirit hall seemed very solemn. After all, the 223 battle methods should have been their biggest round of competition, but they still lost. Ziyu looked at their 8th player, the mysterious man who had been wearing a black robe, with a heavy expression, and then said in a deep voice, "Elder, I'll leave it to you in the team battle." The man he called the elder replied in a faint voice, "I will help you keep an eye on Tang Liu." Then Ziyu looked at the other team members, "Our chances from now on will only be team battles and individual battles. Go all out and don't underestimate the enemy." Then, he winked at Tulina and Yan respectively. The two understood and nodded gently. Their team members didn't know that the 3 of them actually had another mission. Kill Tang San in the game. This was a death order given to them by the Pope himself. The reason why the Pope gave such a death order seemed to be because of that day. That day, the promotion match of the elite competition of the All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy had just ended. Then someone came to the Pope's palace with the Elder Order of the Spirit Hall and met His Majesty the Pope. They didn't know what the Pope and that person talked about that day, but after that day, the Pope gave the 3 of them the task of killing Tang San in the finals. The Pope was like a teacher to the 3 of them. So they had to complete the task. Although this task seemed a bit difficult now. However, with the Elder willing to hold Tang Liu back, they also had great confidence. In short, everything will be revealed in the next 8-person team battle. Will they successfully kill Tang San, win, and drag the game into an individual elimination battle? Or will they lose the game again and completely lose this competition? So far, no one knows. With the referee's order, the players from both sides entered the field one after another. On the Shrek Academy side, the Shrek Monster Group, composed of the Shrek 7 Devils and Tang Liu, stood on the left side of the competition venue. Standing in the front were Tang San, Daimyu Bei, and Tang Liu. Behind them stood Xiao Wu and Zhu Xiuqing. Then came Ma Hongjin, and Oscar and Ning Rongrong behind him. The 8 people from the Spirit Hall stood on the right side of the competition venue. Standing in front of them were their 3 Soul Kings, also known as the Spirit Hall's Golden Generation, Hulina, Ziyu, and Yan. Behind the 3 of them stood their mysterious 8th person, the Elder Ziyu mentioned. Behind the Elder were the other 4 members of the Spirit Hall. After the 3 members of the Golden Generation came on stage, their eyes immediately fell on Tang San, with not only provocation in their eyes, but also hidden murderous intent. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.